everybody. Welcome to another brand new episode of It's My House podcast. But today, doing things a little bit differently. I brought three of my good friends with me. And if you've come here via Twitter, you'll probably find it a surprise that I've actually got any friends. But I promise I've not paid any of these gentlemen to be here because I don't have any money. So even if I wanted to, I couldn't. As I say, yeah, we've gathered here today to do something a bit different. Summerslam and NXT Takeover 36 predictions and preview show. So without further ado, let me introduce the gang to you. We've got, don't know whereabouts everyone's going to be sitting when this goes out, but got Mr. Gary Tait, who I used to work with at bodyslam.net and writes for Hooked on Wrestling at the moment. Got Mr. Mike Nunn, another talented writer, used to work together again at bodyslam.net. And Mr. Mark Leversedge, you might know him better on YouTube as Mr. Mank Bastard, puts out lots of WWE 2K related content, another wrestling content creator, always good to have. Hello, gentlemen. How's it going? How is everybody?
Yeah, all good. All good, mate. Thanks for having me on.
No, very much. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for taking the time out of your evening, especially it's a bit of a later one. I don't normally do episodes this late. So, yeah, thank you for giving up your evenings. It's fucking SummerSlam weekend. Or very nearly SummerSlam weekend. How was everyone feeling about it? How was everyone excited? It's been a long time coming, obviously. 67,000 people, I think it is, in the the stadium. You know, big deal. Going to be a hell of an atmosphere, right?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Some big matches. Feels almost a little bit like a WrestleMania weekend with all that's going on with Takeover as well. And chuffed that it's on a Saturday night for a change, which is brilliant.
Yeah, man.
I think they have to pull something out the bag with this event. So I think that's why it's sort of got that little added extra this time. Because one, obviously the fans being back in full attendance for a pay-per-view, especially 63,000. But obviously with the sort of momentum that AEW have at the moment and the rumours that are swirling that could be happening this weekend, you've got to think they've got something quite spectacular planned for Saturday night. You've got to. They have to do something. They can't not do anything, especially if the rumour of Punk on, going to Rampage on Friday occurs as seemingly planned.
Seemingly planned, yeah. Mark, what are you thinking, mate? Do you think there's going to be a reaction if Punk does show up on Rampage in Chicago? What do you think? Do you think WWE will have something like lined up to quickly just pull the trigger on?
What can they do to match that? I mean, I know that you'll get a lot of mixed reactions on terms of Punk. I mean, some fans have sort of gone off the boil with him because of how long he's been away. Some fans have just constantly been asking for his return because of how good he was throughout the whole summer of Punk. I don't think there's anything WWE can do that would match Punk returning to the ring. There'd be a number of things that I think they could do, but whether WWE would actually pull the trigger. I mean, possibly a Becky Lynch return could maybe swing it.
What about The Rock?
Ooh.
Realistically, The Rock's the only one. Realistically, he's the...
Yeah.
I think, I can't remember who else said it previously, but I read it somewhere on Twitter that really, I think it might have been Jericho actually, that turned around and said out the active wrestlers at the moment who haven't been as active for a while, CM Punk is a massive get. It does give them momentum, but who is out there apart from, Austin's not coming back. So realistically, The Rock's the only one, and it gives them guaranteed mainstream, no matter what. It's guaranteed.
Yeah, the only other name that jumps out for me may be Brock Lesnar. But even like you said, Gary, Brock's here, The Rock is here.
Yeah.
As a reaction, surely it's The Rock. Daniel Bryan maybe making his return. I don't know, because things are sort of cooled off. Maybe that's because we're just constantly hearing about CM Punk. I don't know. Not heard anything about Bryan for a little while now.
Yeah, I mean, getting Cena back was sort of a massive thing for them, putting him in Rome. And obviously they went for Goldberg, which Goldberg's a big name. So like him or hate him, he's a big name. And he has that mainstream appeal. So obviously he was Brock's substitute, I guess. So I imagine they tried to get Lesnar with Lashley. Obviously it didn't work out. So, but yeah, Becky Lynch, I definitely see her return coming up. any time now. So that is going to be a big return, I think. As over as she was before she left, I think that could be a huge one for them.
Yeah, definitely. I understand the Brock and Lashley thing. Brock says he's not ready to come back and work a load of dates yet. So obviously, if Brock comes back, it's to win the title. But if he's not going to work a lot of dates, he's not going to come back and lose, is he? He's not going to come back and lose to Lashley, because then that hurts the potential Brock versus Roman again. Because we are going to get Brock and Roman again because of the whole Paul Heyman dynamic. So
could we get Brock as a face going in against heel Roman? That could be interesting. We've seen it the other way around a few times. So
yeah, potentially, yeah. Anyway, right.
I think it does depend on The Rock in that regard.
Yeah.
It massively depends. If The Rock's going to come back and do anything, then you're holding off. But you then got to think of the dynamics with Reigns going ahead. Because if the plan is for him with The Rock, say at Mania, then what do you do? With Brock Lesnar? Do you stick him with Lashley and have him go over Lashley eventually? Does he even want, that match has been rumoured for years, and Lesnar does not seem interested.
Yeah, and the other problem with The Rock versus Roman is if they're looking at it at WrestleMania is April. We're talking fucking 8 months away. What is The Rock going to come back, say that he wants Roman, challenge to see who's the real head of the table, and then we don't see him again for months and months? Because people are just going to complain about that, let's be honest.
Yeah, unless he goes in the Rumble.
Unless he goes in the Rumble, yeah.
They booked that match. I mean, they booked Cena and The Rock the same way. They booked that the Monday night after the Raw after WrestleMania, and then left it for a full 12 months. Obviously, you got a few bits in between, but it was a full 12 months before you saw the match from the point that it was booked. They could quite easily do it with Roman and The Rock.
Yeah, they could. Does Roman and Rock measure up to Cena and Rock in terms of how big it is?
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
If it does, then it's a huge match.
I think it'll be the biggest match we've had since then. Probably bigger, maybe the sort of Hogan versus The Rock level.
Yeah,
it's got a lot more obviously family ties, and we all know that if one thing WWE have done in the past when they've had family go against it, they seem to always do it well. If you think about Owen and Brett and stuff like that, and so the whole family dynamic makes it bigger than the Cena, as long as they don't try and call it once in a fucking generation again.
But they will, because they fucking love a tagline. Love a tagline.
They do.
Although I've not heard SummerSlam being called the biggest party of the summer this year.
No.
Which it always has been. Ever since I was a kid, I remember it being called that.
I have a funny feeling they're being a little bit testy with it due to COVID.
Yeah. Probably.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, right. We've spoken about SummerSlam there, so let's get into it. Going to run down the card. Going to throw out each match to a random person, and then few minutes, give your opinion, give your prediction, and then we'll go around the group and we'll all have a bit of a go at our predictions, add on anything else that we want to do. It's a pretty big card because obviously we're going to do Takeover as well, so we're looking at 15 matches all in all. Obviously, we don't want this to go on for hours and hours and hours, so we'll try and keep it fairly short. I'm going to start things off with a match I couldn't care less about, so that's why I'm starting off with it, to try and get it out of the way. It's Alexa Bliss versus Eva Marie. Honestly, I don't have too much to say about Eva Marie. I think she's done a good job of what she was brought back to do since she came back. She's a natural heat magnet. People have not moved on from how bad she was in the ring those couple of years ago. I get that. But she's been brought back to be a manager, to be this villainous heel who's making fun of Piper, who is an incredible talent. And I really hope that once this is all done, Piper gets used in the correct manner. Alexa, I don't know. I've really called on the whole Alexa thing since The Fiend disappeared after WrestleMania, and obviously left the company since, and blah blah blah. But that's another thing for another day. Alexa is doing the best that she can with this gimmick, but it just sort of feels like The Fiend 2.0, and it's not really working for me when you've got a legitimate badass like Shayna Baszler scared of a doll. You know, that once that happened and she was in that room fucking panicking and getting all exasperated and breathing heavily and getting all scared, I washed my hands of it and I was done with it there. So this match, like I say, couldn't really care less about. I assume Alexa's going to win. Maybe she won't even win. Maybe it'll just be like a weird finish. And I don't see it being a wrestling match, but it's certainly not going to be a fucking good one, is it? Let's be honest. So, yeah, my prediction is an early toilet break and Alexa wins somehow. Throw it out to you guys. Gary, what do you think of this match?
I love Alexa, and to be honest, see when she started this gimmick, we're about a year into it, roughly, give or take, when she started with Bray. I loved their partnership. I think it was one of the best things on Raw for so long. The problem that you have with it now is, and this is really, and I feel bad for Alexa because I think when Wyatt got released and then you had Mickie James say what she did, and I know that she wasn't having a dig at Alexa, but a lot of people took it as that fans are shitting on it now. There's the gimmick's done. Unless the Fiend comes back, Alexa cannot continue that long term, no matter what. She just can't. And I would expect Wyatt chance during that match.
Oh God!
And and I don't like saying that because I'd prefer for that not to be the case. Genuinely, as I'm a massive fan of Alexa, but yeah, I could give zero monkeys about Eva. I don't even hate the women. I do not care about her. I never have. I didn't care about it the first time. Don't get me wrong, she's smoking hot, but outside of that, I just really give zero monkeys. So I'll probably just have a little 10-minute nap, to be honest.
If it even goes 10 minutes, let's be honest. So is that so? That's an Alexa for myself, Alexa for Gary, Mike.
So I'm going to stick up a little bit for Eva Marie. First of all, she's a natural heat magnet, and when she come back, I think she's cooled off a bit, if I'm honest, and that's a shame. But when she first was coming back, she got massive heat. I liked what happened on Raw when she slapped Piper, so I think that's going to be something I want to see more of, eventually leading to Piper's face turn against her. As for Alexa, loved the gimmick when it first started. I agree with Gary completely. Lily has ruined it for me. Not completely, but Lily has killed it a little bit, and they've gone the wrong way with it, I think. Because I love a supernatural gimmick. I love the Fiend, obviously the Undertaker. But this is, I don't know if it's dead, but they've gone the wrong way with it with Lily. But yeah, Alexa Bliss to win, definitely.
Yeah. Cool. And Mark, finally?
I'm going to go the other way. I expect Eva to win with shenanigans.
Some shenanigans.
I expect Eva to win with shenanigans. And if WWE were smart about it, which is wishful fucking thinking, the way around it is you take the Lily doll, you burn the Lily doll, either Piper does it or Eva does it, curse broken on Alexa, so that's the gimmick ended, and Eva goes over on Alexa, and then you have Alexa recovering from being under the spell of whatever, and then she can move on with her career and vice versa. They won't do that. It'll be some sort of weird-ass cinematic finish like we got at WrestleMania with The Fiend. But I still expect Eva to go over with shenanigans in some way, shape or form.
Fucking cinematic, like when they had the doll blink.
Yeah,
you were there. Was that this week? That was horrible.
It's the crap. It's like the crap deep fakes that they've used with an app where you see someone singing over Joe Biden.
Yeah,
it's
just
weird.
Not brought Lily in at all. Gone a little bit darker with Alexa, like she was at first. This would have been so much better than what it is now. But
I personally miss bully Alexa. She was great being the high school bitch. She plays that character so well. Just let her go back to being the locker room bitch.
We haven't seen it for a while because before this, she was babyface for a while with Nikki.
Yeah.
So we feel quite fresh again going back to that role.
I don't think she goes back to heel.
I
don't think she goes heel, Chris. I don't think she goes heel. Not for a while. Not for a while. We're not getting a change of gimmick for a while. Not a chance.
I think it depends on the next match that we're going to come to. It depends on the outcome of that. And I'll explain that more in a minute. The next match is going to be Nikki, almost superhero, versus Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair for the Raw Women's Championship. I'm gonna throw this one to Mike, but I'm just gonna to carry on with what I was saying there. I think we could potentially get a heel turn again for Alexa, sorry, if Nikki retains. Some sort of crap around, I don't know. I made you into a star, I made you into the wrestler that you are. I want the title from you if Nikki was to retain. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. So yeah, Mike, go with you for this one, mate.
Okay, yep. So just to pick up on that as well, that could revive Alexa's character a bit, I think, if she goes up against the white meat baby face that is Nikki ASH. Could work. But yeah, I want to start by speaking about Nikki because she's getting a lot of stick on Twitter, and I love her. I love the gimmick. Not everyone needs to be the same badass baby face, type character. There's room for different roles in wrestling. And this type of role, it works. It works with kids. It's something for heels to really get into and look good at her expense. I think it's working for her. I think it's going to be a great match. Charlotte Flair's another one that gets a lot of stick, but for me, she's arguably the greatest female all-round competitor of all time. And again, big fan of Rhea. I think the triple threat is perfect for Nikki, and I think she will retain by getting some sort of sneak finish on one of the two, probably Rhea. So I'm going to go for Nikki to retain. And then, possibly move on to Alexa Bliss if they go that way. I think that'd be a good way to go for the characters.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, mate?
Again, I'm not quite too sure. I'll be honest, prediction, I'm just throwing this out there as a guess because, quite honestly, I don't think I'd be too bothered by who did or did not win it. I'm going to go with what Mike said, and I'm going to assume another sneak finish with Nikki. However, I would not be disopposed to Charlotte winning the title again, simply because, and whether people care to admit it or not, Charlotte Flair is one of the big names in not just wrestling, but in women's wrestling. She gets far too much shit, and she's now sort of been put in the bracket that Cena was put in a number of years ago. That she apparently buries other members of the roster, and she's now been hit with that sort of. She's been painted with the same brush that Cena was painted with a number of years ago, and there's a reason for it. Is she is the equivalent of Ric Flair. She's just like a dad. She lives the gimmick. So I would. Yeah, I wouldn't be disopposed to Charlotte winning it again, to be quite honest.
Gary?
Well, as Mark was saying, I think a lot on this match depends on what they have planned after. So if Alexa wins and they plan to go down the route of changing Alexa slightly, then Nikki retains. If they do have Becky coming back, let's be honest, she's got to go to Raw because the Raw's women division for 90% of the time is pretty woeful. Yeah. If she goes to Raw, then Charlotte has to win because Becky's going to be the over one. But in regards to Charlotte as well, and I wouldn't mind Charlotte winning it if that's the reason, but she only gets that much shit because she's in WWE. The same fans that are shitting on her are also the same fans on Saturday that want her to go to AEW to be with Andrade and her dad. So let's, the hate that she gets is purely normally from, what people would call the smart marks, the ones that literally would, suck a young buck off effectively if they thought they could actually get any further into AEW's arse.
Sorry, Gary, is that you saying that you're not a fan of the young buck?
I was shoehorning in at some point. But no, it's true though. You know what I mean? Every time she trends, And 90% of it, the hate that she gets is purely from people that also would literally mark out massively if she just randomly showed up on Dynamite. It's like, can we stop this like fucking nonsense, and let's just acknowledge that she is literally the single-handed, probably best WWE female wrestler of the last 30, 40 years, right? Yeah. Even she's better than Becky, but Becky's character overall is better. But she's do you know what I mean? She is single-handedly the biggest female, the best female wrestler in North America, hands down.
Yeah, I think Charlotte's the best.
There isn't anyone better.
Charlotte's the best. Becky's the biggest star.
Yeah, I agree with
Becky's
that.
The most over. Becky's the most over. I think if it
hadn't
been for COVID and getting pregnant, I think she'd be a megastar by now, because she'd have hit the road, she'd have done the interviews, she'd have done the chat shows, she'd have been on TV shows and on movies. I think she'd be by now, maybe it's a bit much to say, but the closest that we'll get to a female Cena or a female Rock in terms of mainstream coverage. Regarding this match, the triple threat, funnily enough, nobody at all spoke about Rhea in any of that, and I think that speaks volumes for what they're doing with Rhea. But the way we've spoken about this match, it's almost like it's a singles match. Rhea hasn't factored into it at all, which is, it pains me to say. I loved Rhea, loved her in NXT. What they've done with her on the main roster is dog shit. Just there was no, I don't know, they just didn't help her to get over. She just came up and was just suddenly there, like an alternative Charlotte, like a more well-built and a more differently looking Charlotte. I don't know, she just didn't feel like the Rhea Ripley that I'd come to know and love in NXT, who ended the reign of terror of Shayna Baszler and things like that, you know, and had those amazing moments at War Games and at Survivor Series and coming up to the main roster and just wrecking everybody. And then, I don't know, she feels like an afterthought in a rivalry that's essentially got the female fucking Hurricane Helms. You know, I don't really know what's going on. So my heart says Rhea as a big fan. My head, unfortunately, says Charlotte. I don't want to see her keep winning titles, but I completely agree with everybody who said she's the greatest of all time. Love her or hate her, don't want to admit it, whatever, fuck her, I don't care. She's the greatest of all time. I will not entertain any nonsense that Trish Stratus is the greatest of all time. Trish spent about, I don't know, 5+ years as a pretty girl with big tits. She was a valet, she was a pretty face. That's all she was. She was garbage at the start. She couldn't wrestle for shit. She got better, and I will always give her kudos for that. But I think Trish was one of them who was made to look better by her vastly more talented opponents, like Lita, like Nikki.
To make new friends again, Chris. Out there trying to make new friends again. You're doing well.
I think the best match Trish ever had was with Charlotte, and that speaks volumes.
I think, just to echo the thought on Charlotte again, I think she's probably the only woman on the roster that would, if there were names that were to, current names that were to jump from WWE to AEW, your names are Roman, Cena, Charlotte. They're the only names that would have the impact of people physically going from one to the other. They would have the big switch, and she's up there as one of the names that would cause that switch. And I'd say that speaks volumes for not only her, but for women's wrestling in general, because of what her and then the other 3 of the 4 horsewomen have done to elevate that, as well as the others that have been there. But she's probably the only name, possibly Becky, but that would cause that switch in that channel switch.
Brock as well.
Yeah, Brock. Yeah.
No,
but you're right. In terms of women, as much as we love the rest of the 4 horsewomen, I don't think, you know, Sasha, who over this Mandalorian fan, who knows who Sasha is. She's getting there. Yeah, she's definitely getting there. But at this moment in time, Gary,
surprisingly, Sasha has quite a massive mainstream appeal since the Mandalorian.
Yeah,
and I'm sure I've seen something, a report the other week there when she came on SmackDown, and her quarter numbers are when she returned they're quite scary. Like the numbers jump quite significant. But yeah, I think, you know, Roman, Cena, Becky, Charlotte, they're the only names that really will get people to jump from WWE to AEW. They really are. And I don't even think Punk or Bryan can do it. And I'm not even disrespecting them. They just don't. I just don't think that a lot of people will be that bothered. It'll be massive, but for us, it'll be massive. But I mean, the casual viewer.
Yeah.
To clarify, all of us will love it to a certain degree and we'll tune in. But the casual fan maybe might not, unless it was one of those three.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Right. Let's. So that sounds like we've got a Nikki, and Charlotte. I think was two Nickis and two Charlottes. I think we had for that one. So yeah, split across the board. So that'll be an interesting one. Next up, I'm going to throw this to Mark. We've got one of the World Championship matches for the WWE title. We have Mr. Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg. So Mark, take it away.
Right, long story short with this one, it'll be a fucking train wreck. You saw from Goldberg from the spear on Monday night, it was more like a double leg takedown. Part-timers shouldn't get title shots. He's an attraction for SummerSlam, which is fair enough to bring someone like that back to the casual viewer for the first big main event, not in a fucking heavyweight title match. However, I want to try and look at it with a little bit of a bigger picture on terms of what they possibly have planned. And I think it could be something to do with Big E. I'm trying to look at it from a fantasy booking point of view as to how I would book this match, because I think with them bringing Goldberg back and with him being a part-timer, WWE have booked themselves into a corner. So they have to utilise the cash-in, which is possibly one of the surprises they could have planned for the show. We have Corbin stole the briefcase on SmackDown. I expect him to evade Big E for the go-home SmackDown show, still hold it into SummerSlam. At the end of the Lashley-Goldberg, which I expect Lashley to win, goes around celebrating, and as he's celebrating, Goldberg hits him with another spear, wanders off, and then you'll have Corbin comes down, tries to cash in, cut off very quickly by Woods and Kofi, gives E back the briefcase, he cashes in successfully on Lashley. That is how I would work that match. It's the only way they could get themselves out of a corner and that have a solid way out of the match without putting the title on Goldberg. Again, Goldberg's primarily there, mainly for the entrance, because he has got an iconic entrance. It'll get fans going. You'll have those Goldberg chants. Other than that, that's what I expect of it. So I expect Lashley to go over. However, I expect them to use the match as a Big E catch-in at the end.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree, but I'm going to go slightly differently. I think Big E does cash in, but I have Goldberg win. I have Goldberg beat Lesnar.
Lashley.
Instant nuclear heat. Imagine the reaction to that in the arena. All the boos, everybody angry. Boom, Big E cashes in. And not only is that a big moment for Big E, big moment for the fans, because the fans love Big E and they love New Day. Everybody pops, everybody cheers. But it's a big moment for Goldberg in respect of a big moment for Big E, because Goldberg was always his favourite. He was always his idol, and he's always said that his dream match would be himself versus Goldberg. Big meaty men bumping meat, So what better way for him to finally win the title than to win it from somebody universally hated and somebody that he idolised growing up? It's a great way to reward Big E for the stellar work that he's put in over these last however many years it's been. So that's me. I think Goldberg wins, Big E cashes in. Gary, your thoughts?
Oh no, Mark wanted to come back at you there.
No, sorry. Am I the only one that heard Chris say "big men bumping me"? Or is
that's
what Big E said. He said it on the Field of Power podcast. He was talking about his favourite types of matches, and he was like, "Big meaty men bumping meat."
Yeah,
I think on terms of the way that, to be quite honest, you're probably right. They'd go from nuclear heat to stadium roof popping in a matter of seconds. The internet would fucking break in the space of 2.5 minutes on Twitter. So yeah, I think the way you've done it is probably better than the way I would have done it on terms of Goldberg going over and then Big E cashing in.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for agreeing with me. Nobody ever agrees with me.
Because you don't have friends.
No, I know. I don't even know who you guys are. You were the first three that responded to my tweet. That's why you're here. Gary, what are your thoughts, mate?
Oh, you slid into my DMs, so let's just get that right.
Oh, everybody slid into your
no
DMs,
one
mate.
responded to your tweet. You slid into the DMs.
But I wasn't pushing my own.
I said nothing.
So.
I'm saying nothing. Again, I think the match will be dog shit, which is a shame for Lashley. I think the main problem that people have with Goldberg overall isn't necessarily Goldberg himself. It's what they do with him. It's not him. If he wasn't in a championship match, a lot of people wouldn't give a shit. Do you know what I mean? They would be happy he was there. It's the fact he's in a championship match. And not only that, he's in a fucking another one. He's in another one. He's already had one this year, and he got beat. So what are they doing? It's that logic that really just sticks in your craw. You're just like, what's the point? In regards to Big E cashing in, the only issue you've got with Mark's way is that I think people pop for Baron if he tries. Because I think that character is actually getting over. Surprisingly. I wasn't a massive fan of that at the start, but man, it's genius.
Mate, the crowd went mad for him. When it looked like he was going to sign that contract, the crowd went mad.
Yeah. I think you could book it a couple of ways. You could book it your way or Mark's way, and I think both would be all right. I think they would go the nuclear heat to the pop way. The only other way I would have it, if they're serious about bringing Brock back, is you literally just have Lashley fucking kill him. And make Lashley look a massive badass and destroy him. It's hard to predict with WWE, especially with this match, because I could see Lashley going over, but at the same time, I wouldn't be shocked if they put the title on Goldberg even for 2 minutes. It just wouldn't shock me. And I think that's one of the problems we've got with the Raw card in general, is that they will do one thing, but then again, do we trust them to do the right thing? And I don't think anyone fucking does.
Fuck no, not a chance, no. Okay, so Mike, your thoughts, mate?
Right, okay, so I love everything that everyone said. With Big E, either way could work. So in terms of the story, so obviously you had Lashley destroy Kofi at Money in the Bank. Cashing in on Lashley would make more sense, but for the heat, cashing in on Goldberg, and that's Big E's dream match, they'll probably get a better reaction for him overall. I actually don't think we're going to see Big E cash in yet. I think this match is going to be better than people expect it to be. So when Goldberg had a match with Drew, I thought it was all right. I thought the match was okay. It was hard hitting. It was short. The match Goldberg had with Lesnar at WrestleMania, I loved. I thought it was brilliant for what it was. Some of the matches he's had have been awful. With the Fiend, with Owens, with Undertaker especially. But they do it right, and I think Lashley's the right opponent. Hard hitting, strong, spear versus spear. They haven't built it as spear versus spear, but Lashley wins a lot of matches with the spear. I think it goes 5-6 minutes, and I think Lashley's going to submit Goldberg. Goldberg is not going to tap, but he's going to pass out, and Lashley will retain. And Lashley looks like a badass. And I do think eventually we're going to go Big E, Lashley, but not just yet.
That's a big call, man. That's a big shout, saying that Goldberg would be passed out.
I don't think he'll tap. I do think after a while in the Hurt Lock, maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes, he goes eventually.
So 2 minutes. 2 minutes of the 5 minutes. Just him in
I think in the first 2 seconds, Goldberg's going to hit a spear, and then another one, and then Lashley will kick out with about 5 spears, and then maybe a spear, from Lashley, Dominator, Hurt Lock. And that's it. Lashley looks strong. If Goldberg's used like that, I think it's okay. I know Gary was saying about Goldberg always getting title matches, but I think they've shifted a little bit because the way he was booked at first, he just kept winning. He kept beating. He beat Owens, he beat The Fiend, he beat Lesnar, but they've shifted away from that a little bit. When he went against Drew at the Rumble, I was very worried that Drew was going to lose, but he didn't, and I'm not that worried. I don't think Lashley's going to lose. I think they've shown that they're not going to do that anymore with Goldberg. But it's just the name now. I think he'll lose, and I think he'll be fine losing.
Yeah, it's a good point you make about the Hurt Lock, because that was my main question going into this, was thinking he's winning most of his matches through the Hurt Lock. Can I see him even locking it in against somebody with a frame as big? And, we know him as being this guy who can just blitz through anything, Goldberg. Will he actually lock it in? So that'll be interesting. That's the most interesting part of this whole match for me, is if he can put a fucking submission on. And that says a lot about how
that's it.
Match, if I'm looking forward to a submission move. So what we got there then? So we've got Goldberg, we had Lashley. I think that's another one that's split across, isn't it? 2 for each, I think. So yeah. Interesting. A lot of these matches are very mixed. Going to get through this next one quickly because we've already been about 40 minutes on 3 matches out of 15 matches. We're going to be here all fucking night. Next match, throw this one to Gary. It's the first tag team match that we've got. The Usos versus the Mysterios for the SmackDown tag team titles. Gary, what are you thinking about this one, mate?
The only issue I've got with this is this is like the 3rd or 4th match they've had in the last 3 months. There's not going to be any surprises in this. The Usos go over. They're the best tag team in the world for me. Better than that pile of piss over at AEW. But I can't fucking hate them. But yeah, so I think what leads, I think the only outcome of this that's in any doubt, or the only sort of mystique around this match, is I think we're now gearing up to the eventual father v son match. I think that's the way we're going with it. I don't know if they're going to pull the trigger at SummerSlam. I think we're going to get a slow build. And I think we're going to get sort of a career site type thing down the line with Rey Mysterio probably retiring. I think that's coming at Mania, I would expect. So I think that's the only outcome. I think that's the only thing that we're going to get of any serious interest. It'll still be a good match, but it won't. Do you know what I mean? There's got to be no surprises coming out of this one. The Usos walk away easily.
Yeah, 100%. Completely agree. Completely agree that they're the best tag team in the world as well. Everything they've done these last few years since turning heel has been absolute fucking next level. One of my favourite feuds of all time against the New Day. Everything that Usos touch turns to gold. Yeah, I agree. Usos will go over here. I like the idea of Rey versus Dom. It's something that I'd like to personally see, but I know that Rey has gone on record many times saying that he does not want to fight Dom. Obviously, this is WWE, so anything can happen. Vince might just force him. I feel like Rey's the kind of guy who wouldn't kick up a fuss. He would just do it. He's said how he feels, but when it comes to it, I think we will possibly see that match. So
I think we're seeing it at some point down the line. It feels inevitable to me, and I quite like it. I like the idea.
Yeah, I want to see it. I hope we don't, but I don't know. I don't know. It's a weird one. Mike, what are you thinking about this one, mate?
I agree with Gary. Usos are the best team in the world. They are. The New Day are a close second for me as well, and I love the Street Profits. I'm going to throw it out there. Absolutely love them, but the Usos are the best. They're going to retain. I think we'll see Rey and Dom, and I think Dominic needs it. If he's going to go singles in the future without Rey, I think Dominic needs to turn heel on his dad. Not yet, but soon. A full-on heel turn, change of character. Dominic versus Rey Mysterio, WrestleMania. Dominic retires his dad.
Retires his dad and wins
mask on a pole match.
Yeah, something like that. He gets the mask. But yeah, the Usos are going to go.
Gets the mask, something like that.
Yeah, Usos. Yeah, Usos to retain. It'll be a great match. Should get a little bit longer on a pay-per-view rather than the episode of SmackDown. So I think it'll be an absolutely brilliant match, and I think the Usos will retain. I don't really see who's next to them. Maybe we'll go to Usos Street Profits again. They had one match, but that was it. I think that's probably the money feud on SmackDown for the tag titles right now.
Yeah. Or Alpha Academy, maybe.
Yeah, they'd have to turn, but
they're very light on the ground on tag teams. That's another long fucking discussion for another day of what the hell is going on with the tag teams again. They seem it was dog shit for years, and then it gets better, and then it goes back to where it was, and then better, and then they split tag teams up, and they put randoms together, and then they split that. It's a fucking mess. Mark, mate, this Usos versus Mysterios.
Unfortunately, I've got to disagree with Gary. The Young Bucks are the best tag team in the world, and they're the best thing since sliced bread.
I don't know.
I think this is going to happen.
You know what? I can't even keep a straight face. No one's going to believe that in a month of Sundays, are they? Yeah, same with it. I expect the Usos to go over. Again, we'll get the eventual heel turn with Dominic. I'll keep it short and sweet on that one. Usos go over.
Oh, so that's a clean sweep for the Usos. Lovely, love to see it. Okay, right. I'm going to move on to the next one. I'm going to take this one. For the US Championship, US title, we've got Sheamus versus Damien Priest. Now, I don't really know where to start on this one. I love Damien Priest. Loved him in NXT. Knew it was his time. Knew he was ready to come up to the main roster. I was a big fan of what they did with Bad Bunny. I know a lot of people weren't.
I'm really sorry to interrupt you, but Mike's gone for a piss break.
That's Mike. That's Mike telling us his views on this match.
Okay, so Mike doesn't get to talk about this one. Yeah, Priest. I loved what they did with him and Bad Bunny. I thought that was a great choice, a great move. Bad Bunny was fucking brilliant. Only benefited by the fact that he was with 3 veterans of the business.
I had to get my laptop charger. It was going to die. I don't want that to have come out.
Mate. We just thought you didn't want to talk about this match before this.
I love it. Break. Love both guys.
I love Sheamus. Sheamus is one of my favourite wrestlers of the last couple of decades. I adore him. The intensity that he brings to everything. He's believable. He's funny when he needs to be. He's a badass. He's great in the ring still, even through injuries and even as he's getting on to probably the twilight of his career now. He's been a great champion. Love what he did recently with the likes of Ricochet. I thought their program for that month or so was next level. That was incredible. Priest, I love Priest, but he's sort of he did the Bad Bunny thing and then he was just gone. I don't know. I think he might have picked up an injury or something along the way. And then he just came back and within a week or 2 weeks, we suddenly got a championship match. He just seems very rushed. This one. I know they've had a couple of little brief interactions, but I don't see Priest winning the title this weekend. I do see him winning it further down the line, but I don't think it'll be this weekend, purely for the fact that it's just been very rushed. I don't think that's anybody's fault. Like I say, it's mostly down to his injury. But yeah, Sheamus to go over here and retain his title. Let's go to Mark first.
I expect Sheamus to go over, same as yourself. I think Priest has been hit with the same unfortunate NXT main roster curse that Rhea's been hit with. The problem with NXT call-ups from NXT to the main roster is not everyone can go up to the main roster and then instantly become World Heavyweight Champion like your purist NXT fans would like to see happen. He's been hit with that, and he's been hit with the NXT curse, really, unfortunately. Although with Sheamus, I expect them to have a good match. It'll be very hard hitting, both 2 big guys. I expect Sheamus to win, though.
Good, Mike.
Right, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go for Priest to go over. What I will say with Priest, it is a bit rushed, this thing. I think he did get an injury or something after Mania. But it does say a lot for him that they wanted to get him back into this spot, into a title match at SummerSlam. I think he's clearly liked by Vince, and he's got the look, he's got the charisma, and I think he needs this. I think he really needs a big win, and I don't think Sheamus needs it. I don't think really at this stage of his career, Sheamus is pretty much bulletproof. He can take anything, any loss, and he'll come back the next week, and he's Sheamus, so he's fine. Damien Priest to win, and to reach the next level. So I do expect him to be a world champion on the main roster. I think he's got everything that you need in the ring, on the mic, got the character, and I think he'll win. And the match itself will be brilliant because Sheamus is fantastic. Hard hitting, brutal. Hopefully Priest matches him with that intensity. And if he does, we could see a possible dark horse for match of the night.
Yeah, absolutely. Just two big blokes kicking the shit out of each other. That's what I like to see. Old school, just two people hurting each other. Gary?
I'm glad you never said two big meaty men beating each other.
They are two big meaty men bumping meat, to be fair. They are.
I like Priest. I didn't really see much of him in NXT, but it's like there's some talent in NXT that they're not an NXT guy. Do you know what I mean? I don't see Priest as an NXT guy. I see him as he was always, just there to go up to the main roster at some point. He was never going to be, an Adam Cole or Gargano, someone like that. He was never that way for me. I think Priest goes over. I think they're quite high on him. I don't think he's fallen by the normal NXT curse. They gave him a massive storyline, leading up to Mania. He was in mainstream news pretty much, all over the world and with Bad Bunny. So I don't necessarily, I don't think he could do if he doesn't win. They could very much go down that route of the NXT curse. That's why I think he wins. Because I think they're high on him. And as Mike says, Sheamus doesn't need the title and he doesn't need the win, but Priest needs the win. He doesn't necessarily need the title, but he needs the win.
Yeah.
And it'll just be two guys kicking shit at each other, and I'm all for it.
Cool. So that's another one then. So we've got another split decision there. I'm happy either way. I love both guys, really not fussed who wins, but it would be nice. Yeah, I am concerned if Priest loses, is he the next 24/7 champion? There's always that concern now.
Has Priest lost at all since being called up? I'm trying to think. Nothing. I don't think he has.
Nothing jumping out at me. No, I don't think he's wrestled that many matches. To be fair,
I know he's beat Miz and Morrison 20 times.
He's been pretty well protected since he moved up. To be fair, but I think again we could do this with every Raw match. The problem is that I don't fucking trust them to do the right thing.
I don't think there's a massive wrong thing in this one, to be fair. I love both guys are great. I would put Priest over, and I do think it'll go that way, but
cool. Good stuff. I'm looking forward to that one. Like you say, potential dark horse match of the night for me as well. Right, let's move on to one of the showcase matches. We've got Seth Rollins versus Edge in what should be another potential match of the night, considering the two guys involved. I'm going to give this one to you, Mike, first of all, mate.
Yeah, so if the other match was a dark horse for match of the night, this one is probably the favourite for match of the night. Just amazing. 7 years in the making. So going all the way back to 2014, which I love that they've done, with Seth Rollins potentially stomping Edge into this Money in the Bank briefcase 7 years ago, and now into this. This is a really tough match to call, though, because both guys could use the win. Edge has lost a few lately, albeit to Roman, so losing to Roman doesn't really hurt anybody. Rollins had a couple of losses to Cesaro before picking up a few wins against him. I think Rollins needs this more, to be honest. I really do. And I think Rollins is going to win. I don't think this will be a one and done, though. I think Rollins may win, maybe slightly cheating, setting up another match, which Edge may win. But I think that at this stage, Rollins gets a big win in a possible 25, 30-minute match that will probably be the match of the night, because this is going to be fantastic.
I agree with everything that you said, apart from Edge needing the win. I think Edge is one of those guys with his legend status and his Hall of Fame status. You know, he's one of those guys who could come back. He could lose every match for the next year, and it wouldn't matter, because he's not meant to be at the top of the card. He's not meant to be a megastar. He's not meant to be a Roman Reigns level sort of guy. He's just, you know, this is his fairy tale ending, the ending that he never got. You know, he's wrestling guys who he wants to wrestle. We know that Seth is one of the guys that he wanted to face when he came back. So I think this is just Edge just going out on his terms. I think, as I say, he'd be quite happy to lose every match between now and his proper retirement. I think, but even so, even saying that, like you say, it's a very tough one to call, just because of how popular both guys are. But it all depends. It all depends on what the next step is. That's what we said earlier on for the Nikki Rhea Charlotte match. It all depends on what's next. Without knowing what's next, it's really hard to. I could see Rollins winning if Rollins is the idea for going forward for facing Roman in between now and whatever Roman does at WrestleMania, because obviously they're looking at doing The Rock, but he's going to need something to do on the in between, and I think you could easily stretch out Roman versus Seth for a good few months, probably leading up to the Rumble, and it would be incredible every week. If Edge wins, what does Edge do? Does he go for the title again when he's only just literally within the last few months lost it and given up on it and been cost that match by Seth? I don't know. Is that a potential? That even me just saying that, I'm doubting myself already, because it was Seth who cost him in the first place, so now he's going for Seth, and then could circumnavigate back around to go for Roman again. There's so many fucking possibilities. And this is like what we've all said, like, you can't trust Raw to do the right thing, but with SmackDown, you know, it's sort of in good hands. There's loads of possibilities, and you're happy with any of them, because they all work, because they're all good. So fucking hell, I'm torn here. This is another head over heart one. Seth. Yeah, I'm going to go Seth as well, just because, well, he's a full-time wrestler. He's a full-time wrestler who could use the win to go on to do other things, whereas I don't think Ed really can. Mark?
Mike made a very good point in the fact that he doesn't think it's going to be one and done, and I don't either. And I think this is something that it could probably quite easily stretch out until Mania. Now, with Roman being in the position that he's in, both Roman and Seth are pretty much your main heels on SmackDown at the moment. And having heel going against heel, it would only probably work between the chemistry between them two. But again, it doesn't do quite well for the dynamic. But in regards to Seth and Edge, in regards to who wins this one, I don't think it particularly matters, because I do think they're going to drag it out all the way until Mania next year. I think we're going to get a series of 3. So we'll probably get one at SummerSlam, possibly another at the Rumble. There'll probably be a bit of a mix-up between the two at Survivor Series, with them both being on Team SmackDown, and then culminating at Mania. I'm going to go Seth just as a general punt, and then Edge to fly off the handle completely. Or vice versa. I don't know. I'm sold. Seth.
You sure?
Yeah.
You're going Seth?
Yeah.
This is what I love about wrestling, when you really haven't got a clue what's going to happen. Yeah. It's brilliant. You just go into it just excited. Gary, what are your thoughts, mate?
All right. I'm going to buck a trend. Rollins goes over. I think the eventual storyline with Rollins and Reigns is set up at some point down the line. I think it's going to keep Roman busy. I think that's the eventual way they'll go with it. I think they just will. I think Edge disappears after Slam for a while, which is why I think Rollins goes over. Because I think Edge goes away for 2 or 3 months, possibly coming back at Survivor Series. I'm not as torn over it. I genuinely, I think what happened to Edge was COVID, and because he would have been champ if it hadn't been for COVID and the fans back. The eventual lead up was him to be champ at SummerSlam. I firmly believe that. After the Randy Orton stuff, that's where it was going. But obviously, he got the injury and then COVID, and it derailed the whole thing for him. But now I think what he's doing is, as you said, Chris, at the start, he's now fighting guys that he's wanted to have matches with. Rollins being one of the first names out his lips when he came back. So I think it's good for Edge, but I think he disappears, which is absolutely fine. He's part-time. I have no issues with the way that Edge is used at all. And I think Rollins goes over.
So another clean sweep. I'd just like to very quickly touch on the fact that the promos between these two guys have been fucking next level. They've been outstanding. Brilliant. So good. On a par with what we've recently seen with Roman and Cena, if not better, because a lot of Cena is regurgitated stuff that we've seen before, just with a different opponent to bounce off differently. But Seth and Edge of themselves in these promos have got me so much more invested in this match than I already was. Like, I was invested in the in-ring match, but now I'm invested in the story.
I don't even think they've touched the surface with the promos either. There's so much more, and there's so much more personal that they could make it. You have both of them are married to professional wrestlers themselves in Beth and Becky. That could come into it at some point. The promos could be ridiculously insane if they played the smart long game with it and carried it out.
A big tag match, maybe.
Oh,
yeah. You could have Seth turn up on NXT to confront Beth. Like he did to confront Triple H years ago. Yeah. There's so much you could do with it. It just speaks to the talent of the two guys involved.
I think the promos are on par with what Edge and Randy did last year. That's the promos I'm seeing. I think they're better than Cena Reigns. I think their promos have been better, personally.
Yeah, I'll agree.
I think they've been given more to go on. We could see something special this coming SmackDown between Cena and Reigns, I think. But so far, I've loved all of it from both. I think I agree. Edge is one of the best mic men, I think, ever. So underrated and on the mic. The emotion and he puts in, and Seth Rollins as well is very, very good on the mic. He always has been. Just want to touch on Seth and Roman. I don't think at the moment with their two characters that it works at all. A feud between the two of them. I think if we're going to do it, Seth needs to turn. Roman needs to stay as he is. Seth needs to turn back. But I don't think it's time for either of them to do that yet. So I think they might hold off until Seth's ready to turn. Because I think eventually they're going to put Seth back as a babyface. I think they still see him as potentially... Well, Roman probably is the same way eventually, but not for years, I don't think. But at the moment, they're two pretty, they're two big heels. They're not even tweeners. They're both heels. So not sure how it works as a feud.
We shall see. Right, let's move on to the next match. Try and keep this one a bit shorter. I don't think there's particularly too much to say about it, to be honest. Going to go with Drew McIntyre versus Jinder Mahal. Going to give this one to Mark first, buddy.
Long story short, I mean, this is a match that the history of the two guys got going back to 3MB. They're both very good friends in real life. They were both part of each other's groom parties in the weddings outside of the business. There's a lot that they could have played on to make the story that much more interesting. On terms of the way they could have booked it, I mean, I don't know whether anyone knows, are there any stipulations for the match?
Just that the Indashare, is that their names? The two guys that Jinder's with. They're banned from the ring.
Shanky,
That's it.
And effectively, Drew can stab Jinder with the sword.
He can murder him, yeah.
The way I would have gone with this, I mean, you've got Drew, who's again pulling out this big fuck off sword, right? You've got history between the two guys. You could have had a stipulation to the match. Last man standing would have worked fucking brilliantly. There was a storyline years ago. I'm going to go back to 99, St. Valentine's Day Massacre. They had a storyline between Ken Shamrock and Bel Venus where the referees refused to get involved in the match because of how much of a lunatic Shamrock was. And they ended up bringing in a special guest referee that was Billy Gunn. The third link between Jinder and Drew was Heath Slater. They could have brought Heath Slater back as a special guest referee for the match. They could have done so much more with it, and there's so many routes they could have gone down. But because it's been it's a rushed build and nobody really gives a shit. So, Drew.
So, fuck it, Drew. Yeah, like, I think the only thing that I care about with this match is that it means Drew's not in the title picture. And that was important for me. He was in the title picture for fucking hell, a little over a year. And fans were starting to revolt to that. I know I certainly was. I love Drew. I was so fucking happy for him when he won the title. Felt terrible for him that it wasn't in front of fans. And it's a shame that his first big match in front of a full stadium is against Jinder. Now, don't get me wrong. Two of my favourite guys are Baron Corbin and Jinder Mahal. You know, two of the guys who are often criticised and people shit all over them. They're two of my absolute favourites. But this wasn't the match for me to put Drew in when he's back in front of a full stadium. I feel like he should have had something a bit better. Maybe a US title match or pop him on SmackDown, go for the Intercontinental title. I don't know, just something a bit bigger than this. But the important thing is that they moved him out of the title scene. They've still kept him in a fairly, can you call it a high-profile match? I guess it's pretty high up the card. It's pretty high up the card on Raw whenever they are against each other. They have multiple segments throughout the night on Raw. So,
but it should be so much more for what their backstory is. It should be so much more than what it is, and it's been a rushed build, and it's a shame for both guys. Because it could be, I mean, every now and again on the big pay-per-views, you get a match that doesn't have a title involved. It's just literally so much bad blood.
Yeah. And
this could have been that match. And it's flat. And
Triple H versus Shawn Michaels springs to mind. SummerSlam.
Exactly. Yeah.
Something like that.
I don't think it would have been the heights of Triple H and Shawn Michaels, but it could have been the bad blood match for the show.
I guess that's Rollins and Edge now for this show.
Yeah, Edge and Seth is sort of that match, isn't it? Yeah. Drew, I guess. Well, I guess. It's fucking obvious. Drew's obviously going to win. If anybody says Jinder, they don't watch wrestling. Like, I love Jinder, but he's not going to win, is he? Let's be honest. Gary? You're going to say fucking Jinder now, aren't you?
No. Although, to be honest, I would have loved a Punjabi prison match. I'm not going to lie. I would have been all right with that. I'd have been fine. It's not been rushed to a certain degree. It's only been rushed because it's been shite. Let's just call a spade, right? The build's been shit, right? You can't get away with it. Let's take last night as a prime example. They were arguing, and the whole stipulation was two guys fucked off in the ring, or Drew got to bring his fucking sword. Now, bearing in mind, by the way, that Drew is on the record numerous times saying that the sword is actually Vince fucking McMahon's. It's fucking mind-boggling that they've decided to give this fucking sword the name Emma. Fuck, who gives a shit? I'm really annoyed that they've done this to these two guys, because I think, similar to what we were saying about two guys just kicking shit at each other, that's what this should have been. Yeah. Instead, we've had bullshit about motorbikes, we've had bullshit about swords, when the history could have just been up there with what we had earlier on this year with Sheamus and Drew. Could have just been two mates pissed off with each other and wanting to kick shit at each other. That's all this could have written itself.
Yeah.
The
but
promo,
no, they have to make it a bit more bikes.
And the promos could have been the exact same thing. The promos could have been the two of them, not even speaking, just kicking the shit out of each other around the arena, into fucking doors, in through the locker room. And it's like you've just said, Gary, the build has been shite. But is that down to the two guys? Is that down to the writers?
It's the writers, yeah.
It's massively down to creative. Let's be honest. It's hard to state that Drew McIntyre in the last 18 months during COVID has not been one of, if not the main attraction. Until Roman came back, obviously, and he's done what he's done. Yeah. But Drew's been the top babyface throughout that whole entire time and done exceptionally well. That I think even Sheamus touched on it a couple of weeks back. Drew's everywhere. He's not even that interesting. Because Drew he does every bit of media. He stepped up to the plate and did all the media. So it's a shame for both guys, as I think that their rivalry could have. It was never going to touch, the Shawn Triple H or anything like that. But they literally for the last 4 weeks could have just been kicking shit at each other all over the arena, and this could have been a street fight. It could have been, a Heath Slater. It could have been a lot better, and it would have had a lot more interest to me. Drew goes over because purely Jinder he's just not seen as a main event guy. So, and Drew will go back into that main event scene either in the next few months or between now and WrestleMania. I fully expect him to be back in the main event scene. So, Drew every day and twice on a Sunday in this match, and it's a shame that it's been a shit build.
Mike, what have you got, mate? Who have you got for this one?
Right, Jinder. No. I've gone back and forth on it. There has been times where I thought it could be Jinder. Simply because this feud has gone all one way. Drew, every single week, has got the better of Jinder. And usually when that happens, the result of the pay-per-view goes the other way.
Yep.
But I don't think it will this time because I think Jinder is levels below Drew.
Another great Cali line.
Drew's going to win and end the feud. I wouldn't mind seeing Jinder win with Veer and Shank obviously a banned from ringside. So could somebody else get involved?
It's a great challenge.
Yeah. Whoever they're going to put out. I mean, that's the only way Jinders are going to win, But, I think Drew's going to go back to the title picture, but not on Raw. I think Drew might be the one to take the Universal Championship from Roman Reigns when it finally happens. A while yet, because I think Roman's going to go past Mania and everything else. Maybe this time next year, we're talking about Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns, main event in SummerSlam, and Drew wins the Universal Championship. But, they keep Drew strong. He wins. And in the draft, whenever that is, he moves to SmackDown and starts his rise again up the card, all the way up to Roman Reigns, and eventually becoming the top. Well, if he's not ready, he's already the top face in the company full time, but being a mega star in the company alongside Roman Reigns for years to come. So Drew to win in pretty convincing fashion as well.
That's another clean sweep then for Drew. My two favourite things about this feud are that A, Vince McMahon owns a sword, because obviously he does. Why wouldn't he use Vince McMahon? And that they want us to believe that Jinder drives a motorbike. Jinder doesn't drive a motorbike. He's not cool.
Have you ever been to India? Lots of people drive motorbikes.
Yeah,
but not the type that he had on Raw.
Yeah, but he's fucking Canadian.
He is, yeah.
People are very quick to forget that.
Fucking Canadian.
Don't want to remember.
The sword needs to go after this feud, though. Not forever, but I think he should have kept it only for big moments. One-offs now and then, but not every week. And it certainly doesn't need to pretend he's going to murder Jinder in the ring and slice him in half with a sword. It's not going to happen.
Imagine.
All right, okay. Is the token Scotsman in this group right now? I must admit, I have fucking hated that sword since it fucking came out, right? I just can't stand it. I don't see the point of it. The whole fireworks, because the whole fucking thing is to get the sword out of the fucking stone. It's not to put it in. It's to take it out.
Yeah.
I hate the sword. I think it does nothing for Drew at all. I think it was pointless, and it's, oh, look, here's a Scotsman in a cult with a sword. Fuck off.
Yeah, Vince loves a stereotype, doesn't he? Right, okay, let's move on to another one. Let's keep this one short as well. I don't have any particular thingies on this match itself. Gary, I'm going to give this one to you, mate. We've got AJ Styles and Omos versus RK Bro for the Raw Tag Team titles. What are you feeling about this one, mate?
2 tag teams better than Bucks.
That's your last chance now. This is the last tag match, so get as much your book hate in as you want.
No, I won't. Again, it's on Raw, so let's be honest. All right, okay. About 6 months ago, genuinely, I could have given zero monkeys about Riddle. I wasn't connecting to the lad at all. There was just, he was super talented, but he just wasn't, I just didn't care. But then over the last 6 months, and the last 3 months specifically since April, he's really grown on me. And I don't know why that is. I'm guessing because Randy has had probably a little bit of a word in his ear. Because if you've noticed that Riddle's made up with Seth Rollins, he's made up with Goldberg, and a lot of that was probably to do with Orton. I don't know how this match goes. I think it'll be a decent match. I don't think it'll be great. But then again, you've got Randy and AJ in it. So whenever they're in a match, you're expecting at least it to be, good. Amos is all right. He's proven to be steady. But I don't know who wins this one, because again, it's been so, it was only announced last night. So I've got to go with RK Bro, purely just because I think that they've got that momentum that's behind them as a team. And I think it's probably about time that AJ went back to singles. And I'd quite like an AJ turn back to a face. He's been a heel for quite a while now. I'd like AJ to turn back to a face, and I'd be all right with AJ Lashley for a few months. If that's where they're going to go, and that specifically works as well as if you're going to move Drew over to SmackDown, then you're going to need someone to step up as the babyface. And if they're not going to do it with Big E, then your natural choice is AJ. So I think the titles come off AJ for that reason. I think he goes back to singles. And I think RK will just have the momentum. That's it, really. I've got nothing else.
Yep, no, I fully agree with all your points there. I think RK Bro win purely because of their dynamic. And I think you can do more with that than you can with AJ and Omos, because what's their dynamic been other than incredible wrestler and a guy who can't really move as his bodyguard? I think there's just so many more possibilities you can do with RK Bro. There's the whole, will they, won't they turn on each other? Which one's going to turn on the other when it eventually happens? I'd love it to be Riddle. I think he could be a good heel. Not really got too much to say about this one, because like you say, it was announced last night, so we've 6 days before the pay-per-view, 5 days before. So I'm just going to keep it short and sweet and go with RK Bro. Yeah. Mark?
Do you know what? It kills me to say it, because I love AJ and I love Orton, but I genuinely could not give a fuck about this match in the slightest. It's just a match. It's just there to make up numbers, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Which is again a shame for tag team wrestling, because the teams are just sort of guys that have just been sort of matched together, and nobody gives a shit about tag team wrestling anymore on the main roster. I think the only reason Orton's with Riddle is because they both love a joint. I could not care less. That will probably be my piss break, other than Alexa and Eva.
Who wins?
Who wins? Oh,
still got to choose a winner.
I've got to choose.
Yeah.
RK Bro, again, I agree with Gary. AJ is probably going to go back to face, and they're probably going to try and do something with Omos. Don't know what. Okay, bro.
Okay, bro. Cool. Mike?
Right, let's go the opposite direction. So I absolutely love this match because I love RK Bro. Riddle, if we're talking about NXT call-ups, I can't think of many better over the last few years, really, than Riddle. He is so over. He is a future champion, world champion, no doubt about it. Absolutely no doubt about it. When he first come to NXT, I wasn't very high on him, and he won me over. When he first come to the main roster, I thought he was a bit too silly. Again, won me over. So I think the last 2 weeks since Orton's come back, this match has really picked up steam because we saw it coming a little while, but the way they've built it over the last couple of weeks has been excellent because the crowd, the way they popped for RK Bro with the RKO and Riddle and the way they ended Raw this week, the crowd are into this match. And I'm more interested in this match than I am the Usos versus the Mysterios. Not in terms of the in-ring stuff, but in terms of the story going in. I think this has been a much better story. RK Bro will win. Omos is not going to take the pin, so let's be honest. AJ is going to take the pin, which is fine. Omos needs to be protected. AJ can take anything, a bit like Sheamus, take anything. Definitely agree that AJ should go back to face. But what happens to Omos then, I don't know. Obviously, he's going to be fine. He's 7'8" or whatever he is. And Vince loves him. And I think he's got some athleticism for a big man. He's obviously very green. But yeah, RK Bro to win. AJ will go back to a face eventually, which I think he should. He's been here for too long now. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this and the furthering feud with Orton. I do agree that Riddle could make a good heel, actually. Very interesting dynamic, seeing Randy being the face in that feud as well. But it's all leading up to Riddle becoming a world champion, I think. And I think that's where he's going in not too distant future. Wouldn't surprise me if one that takes the title from Lashley, as well. So,
yeah, interesting. So another clean sweep. You'll love to see it. All right, let's move on to. Right, I'm going to keep this one short and sweet because I'm not really that bothered by it. Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks for the SmackDown Women's Championship. I don't know. This has gone on for a little too long. It's lost a lot of steam for me. Big fan of Bianca. Just like with Rhea. When she came up from NXT, wasn't used particularly well. It was more just a case of, she's married to Montez Ford. Wow. Okay. It wasn't until she was put on SmackDown that they really started to use her seriously and care about her and give her that push and that momentum. Tremendously talented, unbelievably talented. But, we've seen this match at WrestleMania. I don't need to see it again. When was WrestleMania? Like 3 months ago, 4 months ago? Yeah, just about 4 months ago. It's just very soon to be doing this again. And I know SmackDown's got problems with women, not having enough women on the roster, but that's what's happened. That's what happens when you release half of them all in one go.
Yeah.
So they've backed themselves into a corner. Like WWE, they fucking love a good corner to back themselves into. They've done it again here. I feel bad for both women because they haven't really got anything else to do. If it wasn't Bianca, it'd be Carmella again. It's unfortunate that Bayley is out injured, but if she wasn't, would it just be her again? It's just constant regurgitation of the same fucking feud when it comes to the women on both brands, not just SmackDown. This is the only match on the SmackDown side of things that I'm not really bothered about. I'm just going to go with Bianca. I don't really care who wins here. I don't think it would be a bad thing if Sasha took the title. Like we were saying earlier, she's got that mainstream appeal, so it gets some more eyes on the product. Maybe they give Bianca a bit of a rest because she's been champion for 4 months, which is a fairly long time if your name's not Becky Lynch. Yeah, that's it really. Not really that bothered, but I'll go Bianca. Gary?
Yeah, a lot of steam's came out of this one for me. Let's just remember WrestleMania, this main event. and it will not be anywhere near to main event in SummerSlam. If you think about it that way. So there's a lot of steam that's been out. I'm a massive fan of Sasha. I think she just oozes megastar. Everything about her. I love the fact that she stays in character for pretty much 99% of the stuff that she does. In any wrestling capacity, she just stays in character. And she manages to piss off the AEW stands quite a lot, and I'm a massive fan of that. And she did it the other week there when she said that her matches should all be 5 stars and that she's pretty much up there with New Japan Wrestling stars. And I was like, yeah, fair play. And she just managed to piss people off. So I'm a huge fan of anyone that could just start trolling people for a bit of banter. Love Bianca as well. But again, they're not doing much with it. I think what's hurt Bianca is the Bayley injury situation, because I think they could have had a decent program throughout the summer, possibly. I think Bianca retains. The only way that she doesn't is, and we said it earlier on, it is something that we've got to be wary of, is if Becky's coming back in the very near future, then the title has to go into a heel, because there's not a chance in fucking hell that she comes back to anything other than a massive, massive pop. Up there with, one of the biggest pops we'll probably hear this year. But Bianca wins unless the goal is for Becky to come back to SmackDown, which I'm not 100% sure it is. So, but Bianca for me.
Okay, Mike.
So this is a strange one. It's a massive match. It's the only way to go in terms of who is on SmackDown, and it being SummerSlam. These are by far the 2 biggest female stars on that roster, with Bayley out as well. Sasha Banks is a megastar. She's on her way to becoming a megastar anyway. Bianca, I'm a huge fan. I think she is well loved by everybody, WWE, Vince, everyone else. I think she's going to retain again. I don't know who's going to be next for her, so I don't really see an obvious opponent after Sasha without Bayley. Zelina, she's pretty much lost every match she's been in since she's come back. Carmella's been beaten repeatedly by Bianca. So I don't know, but interesting to see. But yeah, I think Bianca, unless, like Gary said, the idea is to go with Becky and Sasha, which would be massive. So if Becky's going to come back to SmackDown, I think Sasha should win. If not, Bianca to retain, and I think she will. So Bianca.
I've had a thought on who's next, but I'm going to save it for when we talk about Takeover and the Takeover card. Mark?
I expect Bianca to win. I think, and again, to echo what Gary said as well, a lot of steam has fell out the match. It's not on the scale that it was for Mania. Bianca as well. Normally, when you find someone wins the title for the first time, people lose interest a lot more quickly in their first title reign, and I think that's what's happened. Also, I mean, and again, not to make it a political argument, but Bianca became champion at the time where, like at Mania, the Black Lives Matter movement was at its height. It was Black History Month in America, and it was very apt for her to win the title at Mania at that time, because it was very important they did something to echo that. I'm not saying that's necessarily why she won the title, because she deserves it, but it was one of the reasons that she was made champion at the time. And there was a lot of it about it when she was doing the promos towards Mania. I think a lot of steams fell out of the title reign, again, due to the Bayley injury, due to the lack of depth on the SmackDown women's roster. And it's a shame for her, really, because I really do rate her. She's incredible in the ring. She's an incredible athlete. The way she speaks on the microphone, her promos are always good. She's outside of the four horsewomen, her and Rhea, as well as Alexa, are the only members of the female roster that offer something outside of the four horsewomen. So she's going to be a megastar in the women's division. I just think it's time for her to sort of take the title off her, give her some space, let her do something a little bit different, and then put it back on her again at some point down the line, just to sort of keep her fresh. But I expect Bianca to win.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. So that's another clean sweep. I think everybody pretty much along the same lines. It has lost a bit of steam. It's a shame because both extremely talented. It's not the same match it was at Mania, and that's the problem with when you constantly regurgitate the same matches and do all this 50-50 booking and whatnot.
One thing we haven't mentioned is Zelina and Carmella helping Sasha with Bianca. So could they play into the match? Is that a way for Sasha to take the title while also keeping Bianca strong? Are they gonna cheat Bianca?
And then give Bianca something to do for the next month.
Yeah, and then give Sasha Becky.
Yeah.
If Becky wants to be with Seth on the same roster, perhaps, maybe.
Yes, that's another good point. Yeah.
Women for the whole roster, really.
Yeah. Right, let's move on to what is obviously going to be the main event of the night. I'll be honest, I'll save my thoughts on this one. We're going to go Roman Reigns versus John Cena for the Universal Championship. I'm going to throw this one to Mark, please.
Straight off the bat, I expect Roman to retain. WWE again have sort of, and again, it's been a running theme throughout the podcast, is being backed into a corner. The problem with Roman, and straight off the bat with Roman, was that he was pushed to be the next chosen one with the business. You went from Hogan to then going to Rock and Austin to then going to Cena. And ever since Cena took a backward seat, there's not been anybody that has stepped into that role on the level of Cena, Rock, Austin, Hogan. And no matter how hard they've tried to push Roman, the fans didn't accept it. So they went, right, okay, we'll turn him heel. That's what you want. And he's done a fucking fantastic job. To me, he is Triple H peak evolution heel. He's at that point now, and he's doing an absolutely stellar job. He is the face of the business, and he's carrying the business. The problem is he's a heel. So they had to bring someone back at SummerSlam of high babyface level, and the only person that they could have brought back was Cena, realistically speaking, other than Rock. But I think they are saving that for down the line. The problem is with Roman is there is nobody for the business at the minute of stellar babyface level that's there permanently. Owens possibly came close at one point, but he's a sarcastic, neutral Kevin Owens. He's not a full-on face. He's not a full-on heel. He's an in-betweener. And it's a shame because Roman is supposed to be. He should be that Cena, Hogan, Rock and Austin level guy for the business. But he's not because everybody knows the internet wrestling community and the wrestling community in general likes to shit on things just for the sake of shitting on things. They did it with Rollins. They wanted Rollins to be the one to beat Lesnar for the title. Immediately after, I think it was within 2 weeks, they were booing him. They did it with Jericho. They did it with Cena. Cena's the best example. They do it with Charlotte. They want something to happen, and then as soon as it happens, they shit on it. So we can't have nice things.
We can have nice things if it's AEW, but we're not allowed nice things for WWE. Let's clarify that.
Yeah, big bad evil.
Ultimately, I expect Reigns to win, and I expect it to lead into possibly a program with. I think we'll get an ending similar to what we got at Money in the Bank, but with The Rock. I think that could be one of the surprises that they use to counteract Punk possibly signing with Rampage, and I think you'll get Rock come out at the end. You'll get the whole sort of like you got at the end of the Rumble where it looks like the Rock's going to endorse him, and then he rock bottoms Reigns. And walks off, and it plants the seeds for a program heading into Mania. But again, I mean, like I said, I mean, I expect I expect Roman to win, but again, it's just a shame for the roster because there is nobody within the business that is that. Again, Drew's come quite close, but again, the American market won't accept him to the level that we will as the British market. He's not going to be accepted. He's just not on Hogan, Rock, Austin, and I will. We'll talk Mount Rushmore level. Cena, those four are wrestling Mount Rushmore, and there is nobody current generation that's hit that until Reigns eventually goes back to being a face. It will happen eventually, but until Reigns goes back to being a face, so currently there is nobody of stellar babyface level to face Reigns. Hence why they had to bring back Cena.
Yeah. I completely agree, but I'm going to keep mine really short and sweet. I'm not bothered about this match. I'm not particularly looking forward to it. Yeah, we've had a couple of great promos. The one from this most recent SmackDown was entertaining. It was funny. There were a couple of really cool jabs, and there was the CM Punk reference, and there was this reference and that reference. But outside of references, I've not really got that invested into it. Maybe because we know that Roman's going to win. When something's a foregone conclusion, I struggle to get really invested into it. It's not a problem that Roman's going to retain. Roman has been the most watchable part of WWE for the last year. He's been on fire. Nothing he has done everything he's done has turned to gold, like I said earlier on, with whoever it was I was fucking talking about. I don't know. I've just really struggled to get into this. I don't think it's going to be a 5-star match. I don't think it's going to be as good as Roman versus Edge versus Bryan at Mania. I think it will just be it. This match is all about what happens after.
Yeah,
there's so much expectation for something big to happen after. Could it be a cash-in? Could it be? Because we haven't even explored the possibility of Big E cashing in on Roman because he is on SmackDown. Will he cash in on the SmackDown champion? That's what this match is about for me. I will watch it, eagerly anticipating the finish. Roman to win. And then, hopefully The Rock comes out. Mike?
So, this one is about as close to a WrestleMania main event that you're going to get on obviously on a non-WrestleMania card. It's one of the biggest matches with Roman at the levels he's at now and Cena of that megastar Hollywood Rock level now. Almost. It's huge. And it will main event the show, and rightly so. Roman is probably going to... Roman is going to win. John Cena happily comes back and puts him over. He put him over before when he was nowhere near the level he's at now. And he'll put him over again. I mean, there's a slight thing in me that thinks because he's John Cena, because he's going for number 17, could there be a short-term way where we go off Cena's promo, he gets battered by Reigns throughout, and then he somehow picks up the 1, 2, 3, like he was saying throughout his last promo. And Reigns absolutely destroys him after the match and takes the title back the next pay-per-view. I don't think that's going to happen, but it could be a way to get more heat on Reigns. Not that he needs it. I'm very much looking forward to the match because two master storytellers is what, mid-match, they will play off the crowd. Cena is better than anyone I can ever remember at just doing exactly what the crowd wants, reacting to the crowd, bringing them into the match. And Roman Reigns with his talking during matches, we've seen it, especially with his rivalry with Jey Uso as well. His talking during the match, bringing the crowd into it, which is what it's all about, really. At the end of the day, we can talk about great wrestling, but the storytelling is what I watch it for. And I think the story that these two tell is going to be amazing. Eventually, Reigns will win. I think it'll be quite a long match, actually. A good, at least 15, 20 minutes to end the show. Reigns will win. And, I do think The Rock's going to come down at the end. I do. I think they've got him. I think he's been rumoured to actually return for Survivor Series, so I think The Rock will come down. What could happen is that there's a stare down. What I'd like to see is The Rock try and embrace him, like you said. But maybe Roman doesn't like that. Maybe Roman feels that Rock is trying to steal his spotlight. And we go off with Roman having to beat Cena. He absolutely demolishes The Rock. A couple of spears, chair shots, the lot. And just goes off the air looking like an absolute monster. And that's it. That's the end of SummerSlam. So Roman to retain and hopefully get that confrontation with The Rock at the end. Cena, my all-time favourite. Love seeing him back. So I'm enjoying it while it lasts. I think it'll probably be the end for now. But I definitely think WrestleMania will see him again.
The only thing that's making me think that Cena wins and gets that record number 17. No, is it? Yeah, it'll be number 17, won't it? The record. The only thing making me think that he might beat Roman and get number 17 is Ric Flair going to AEW.
Would they care that much about that to stop Roman in his tracks? Possibly.
Oh, this is Vince McMahon we're talking about. The ultimate in petty. You know, he tried to make the whole Domino's Pizza Cutter storyline a bigger thing than it was by getting in touch with the sponsors and people like that to try and get them to move away from AEW. He's incredibly petty. You never know. This is a Ric Flair who recently was crying in an interview saying he owes his life to Vince, and then boom, all of a sudden he goes over to the competitor. I know he's 72, and how much of a draw is he going to be? But fucking everybody knows Ric Flair.
Yeah,
everybody knows Ric Flair. So it could do something, especially if it increases the chances of Charlotte going there in the future.
Yeah,
be with her dad and her fiance. You know, that's just wishful thinking. That's just fantasy booking sort of stuff. Gary.
Reigns retains, destroys Cena. Cena has a little comeback, but Reigns destroys him, I reckon. I think he does exactly what he said he's going to do, and he's going to smash him. I think this is levels of Brock Cena from a couple of years ago. I don't think it'll be as quick. I think Cena will actually get offense in this match, but I'm not expecting anything other than Reigns retaining. Reigns is on a different level, and I know that when I say this, it really irritates those stands that I've consistently mentioned throughout this podcast.
Yeah.
But Reigns is simply on a different level character-wise than anyone else in professional wrestling. It's as simple as that, right? You can love Kenny Omega, you can love the Bucks, you can love Jericho, you can love anyone in AEW. And AEW put on a really good show, and they've got some fantastic talent and momentum. But Reigns is just on a different level, plain and simple. Unfortunately, he is that good at the moment that there is not a current babyface that can realistically take the title from him. And they're not even fucking trying to raise one. They're not. They're simply not. They're relying on Cena for a reason. I think if we're going to get that, if we don't get Becky or anything like that, I do think we possibly might get The Rock. I don't think he gets a beatdown. I think The Rock is very limited due to insurance and all the rest of it, but he has, I believe, just finished shooting Black Adam. So I think there is because he is pretty much the fucking busiest man in Hollywood. I think there is a window that he has at the moment, as Mark was saying, to do something. I think we get another similar to what we got previously, with him being crowned head of the table with his family. I think was it after the J fight that happened, and they put the whole thing over him, and I think we might get something like similar to those type of vibes, that he's that dude, in WWE. He's done it. He's conquered the whole Cena, and then I think you get, do you smell what The Rock's cooking? He comes down as if he's actually embracing. I like Mark's idea that he's embracing the whole thing. He does what he did at the Rumble, which is holds his hand up and then he just literally goes boom. That to me would be the best way to end SummerSlam, and that to me would be the best way to probably curtail the AEW momentum that they'll have over the weekend. If Punk comes back on Friday, if he does, which I think it's a lock now. I think they've teased, I've called Mr. Khan Dixie Khan for a while, but I don't think he backtracks on this one, because I think if he does, I think they're going to be fucked for a while because no one's going to trust them if they do it. So I think he has to. I think there's been too many teases. If you get Punk on Friday and the momentum going into SummerSlam with Punk, you then get the eventual Punk chance, which they're coming. But then if you get The Rock ending it, you get every bit of mainstream, and it completely, it just kills AEW momentum over the weekend with The Rock. Only because he's that level. You know what I mean? And that's not shitting on AEW. It's not shitting on Punk. Massive fans of both. But it's just, he's there. They're there compared, in media terms. That if you're Vince, you spend the fucking money and you do that. That's what you do. You spend it and get The Rock. And
maybe that's why he's been releasing so many people. So that he's got that money.
I think the only other thing, and again, this is sort of like, it's pretty much 99.99% certain that Reigns is going to win. Obviously, we've mentioned Flair briefly, and that did fall out of my head a little bit. We all know what Vince is like. Vince is petty as fuck. And he could potentially do it just as a fuck you to Flair. We know what he's like. He won't, but there is that little thought in the back of your mind that he might. But I agree with that. I think it's pretty much certain that Reigns goes over.
Is Vince really going to give too much of a flying fuck that Flair was at he was at the show in Mexico with his son-in-law, and he ended up putting people in the figure four and shit? No. Is Vince going to give that much a shit? Because personally, and I've loved Flair, but the boy's 72. I don't want him putting wrestling holds on anyone, let alone current talent, old talent. You're 72, dude. Do you know what I mean? I don't think Vince cares.
He doesn't care about Triple Mania, but he cares about AEW. As much as he wants us to think he doesn't care, the mere fact that he's coming out and saying he doesn't care tells me that he does care. Because it's the first time in nearly 2 years that Vince has gone on record and actually, mentioned those 3 letters, mentioned AEW. And that tells me that they've got under the skin. And that's why NXT is being ripped apart at the moment and completely changed.
Does he give a shit about Flair going to AEW? I don't think he does. Flair doesn't move the needle.
I don't think so.
I think he'll feel betrayed. I do hope he
cares about AEW because when he's backed into a corner, when he's got, if he feels he's got competition, that's where we're going to see the best product come from WWE. So.
Yeah, I hope so.
It's going to be like, right, we need to do something big. SmackDown's great. Is he going to find out, right, we need to pull the trigger here with Raw. We need to go to the next level with Raw.
I know we're going on a little sidetrack, but if he is seriously considering AEW as a threat, AEW's ratings are not a threat in any way to SmackDown at all.
No, they're not a threat in that way. No.
But if you get Punk there, if you get Bryan there, I think he's going to do. I think he gives more of a shit about trying to re-sign Adam Cole than he does about Flair going to AEW. But as Mark was saying there, the best creative Vince is when he's being challenged. Yeah. For the last 10 years, I think for Raw anyway, they've kind of phoned it in for large parts of the period. Not all of it, but for certain parts. I think when he's cornered, that everyone on the internet wanks over the Attitude Era. I lived through that era, and it had some great moments, but it's because Vince allowed the stars to be the stars.
Yeah.
Because if Vince had scripted Austin 316, it wouldn't have came across as it did. If you've got to remember that The Rock became The Rock because of an organic comment that he made during a promo. Austin became Austin 316 because of a random promo after a King of the Ring match. That, by the way, the King of the Ring that he wasn't even supposed to win originally. It was supposed to be Triple H. So, Vince, for me, is always better when he's challenged. And I actually think it's a good thing that Punk and Bryan are going to AEW because I think we'll get a better product in the end.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we can only hope. Right, let's wrap up SummerSlam then. That's SummerSlam. Nice to see that we've pretty much universally across the board agreed on most matches. Very rare that wrestling fans come together and agree on things. I think it's time. Right, let's move over to Takeover 36. Honestly, probably on paper, another really good takeover. It always is. It's takeover, and we always know that it's going to deliver. Despite the small card, you only ever get 5, maybe 6 matches. But I mean, technically, we've got 7 matches on this takeover because of the nature of one of those matches. But I've got to say, this is probably the least excited I've been for a takeover. I don't know if it's because of everything going on with NXT, the fact that we know that in the very near future, the very structure of NXT is going to wildly change. They're going back to taped shows, not live, but then they're going back to live in like a month. I don't know. Everything. I feel like we're losing the NXT that we love. It hasn't been the same NXT for the last sort of year and a half anyway. You know, NXT's best years were when it was not on a network, when it was a pre-taped show. So like 2017, 2018, when Shayna Baszler was there, that was when NXT was at its peak. So,
Chris, you've got to think, and I'm going to say something that's probably slightly controversial. NXT, and the whole point of NXT, regardless of what anyone says, has always been about developing people to go to Raw and SmackDown. Doesn't matter when it was on national television, doesn't matter when it was on the network. That was always the case. So I think the problem that NXT has had has been Ciampa, has been Gargano, has been Adam Cole. Maybe not Cole, but I know that Gargano and Ciampa both said at separate times that they were not a fan of coming up. And the problem that you do with only having a 2-hour show
as well.
That's the problem. And I like both talents. I like Cole as well. And I know we'll get on to Cole later and we'll speak about Gargano as well. It's just, and I put out a tweet, and I know that it pisses people off, and I get the whole, if they go up to the main roster, they get buried or all that fucking nonsense. And I understand the fear, but the problem with them staying where they are is, you know what I mean? It's just other people can't come in and do what they were supposed to do. And that was the whole point of NXT. You got excited because these people came in, they did well, they moved on, but then they were able to sort of drop to someone else. And that's not happened for a while now. And I think that's been the problem.
Yeah, my other concern, Adam Cole, we've literally in the last week or so heard that Vince McMahon doesn't want midgets anymore, which is weird because in the 90s he was obsessed with literal midgets, but now he doesn't want wrestlers who are viewed as midgets. And I love Adam Cole, but unfortunately, those kind of guys are what Vince McMahon views as midgets. So it's weird to know that he's busting a gut to try and keep Cole and to try and keep him signed. I don't think he's trying to keep Cole because he wants to keep Cole. He wants to keep Cole away from AEW. That's it.
Yeah.
He knows he's a star, but he also knows that he's not a Vince McMahon star. He doesn't know what to do with somebody like Cole. And neither does Bruce Pritchard, and neither does whoever the fuck's writing Raw. I don't even know who it is anymore.
I think I don't necessarily pay too much attention of they don't want to focus on midgets and all the rest of it because the history of Vince with smaller guys, you've got to remember that Cole is loved by none other than Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
Loved.
Okay. Yeah.
Vince loves Shawn, no matter what. Vince loves Shawn. Vince has, Shawn has his ear. So, I think that the reason why they want Cole so badly to re-sign is because they don't want him at AEW? Absolutely, without a fucking doubt, especially if he can leave at TakeOver and the next again Wednesday appear on Dynamite. Absolutely not a chance to want that. But I also think that he does think that Cole can be a star.
Yeah. I think Cole can be a star. I think he obviously worries he can go to AEW, but he's released half the roster. Well, not half the roster. A lot of people who've went, and he knew they'd go straight to AEW, and he didn't really care about that. Is Adam Cole a bigger star now than Braun Strowman? No. When he's not. Is he a bigger star than Bray Wyatt? He's not. He's probably Aleister Black. They're similar level in terms of star. I don't think Vince offers him $1 million, if that is true, $1 million a year if he doesn't think that he can be a star for WWE. I think he does. One thing that Cole has that's pretty obvious to, I imagine, Vince, is the mic work. Adam Cole on that microphone is just amazing. He's the best talker in NXT alongside Smojo. He's one of the best talkers in the whole company, and Vince loves people that can cut a great promo. So that's where I think Adam Cole slots in the main roster. I think he comes in as a top heel, pretty much as he's been doing now. I do think he'll stay with WWE. I don't think he's going to go. I think he'll take the money and he'll be pushed heavily on wherever. I think probably SmackDown. No, it'd probably be better on Raw, to be honest. They probably need him more. But wherever he goes, he's got everything you need to be a star. So I think he'll stay.
Right. Let's crack on. Let's crack on with the takeover card, takeover predictions, because we've been going for the best part of 2 fucking hours. Yeah. We've still got 5, technically 7 matches to go. Right. So I'm going to start things off. I had a set routine, but I'm going to switch it around a bit. I want to start with Raquel versus Dakota. Raquel Gonzalez versus Dakota Kai for the NXT Women's Championship. The reason I want to do that is because I want to very quickly touch on what I said earlier about Bianca versus Sasha. We were saying what's next for whoever wins that match. I think what's next for whoever wins that match is whoever loses this match out of Raquel and Dakota. Dakota has been in some dark matches and on main event and appearing before Raw to test her out. And I'm sure Vince likes Dakota. She's incredible, incredibly talented. One of the best women that NXT have got, who hasn't really been utilised as well as she should have in NXT. Raquel is, I hate the thing of like, oh, they're the next this, they're the next this. She is the next Chyna, but she's also the first Raquel. I think Raquel, super talented, similar to Rhea, and I have that concern that she'll go in and be treated the same as Rhea. But as I say, I think whoever loses this steps up maybe on Raw next week. Well, no, on SmackDown next week. Right, we'll go to Mark.
Okay. If there's one thing that takeovers have taught me is, regardless of how plain or how underwhelming the card may look, it 9 times out of 10 beats the main pay-per-view in terms of quality of show. I don't think I've seen a bad takeover. I just don't think I've seen a bad one. Again, with this match, Raquel and Dakota, this is a match where people are going to look at the card and think they're not going to expect in this to be the show-stealing match, and it probably won't be, but it'll be a surprisingly good fucking match, because a lot of the NXT roster will have these rumor changes in the back of the mind, and this will be okay, final fucking hoorah, and let's show them why we deserve to stay as we are. This will be probably one of the most stellar takeovers that I think we've had previously. It'll be a show stealer, and no one will expect it to be either. It will be a lot of. I think we'll have a traditional heel of Dakota. She'll take out a knee and she'll work the knee and do everything that she can to put Raquel away. Just traditional dirty heel, beating the living shit out of a meniscus. Will do everything that she can to put her away, and Raquel will pull it off. And like you said, Chris, Dakota's been in the main event. She's been on dark matches, and I expect her to go to SmackDown to fill out the SmackDown women's roster. So that's how I expect that one to go down. Again, I keep a heavily open mind for this particular show and this particular match as well.
I'm going to go the other way. I've got Dakota winning this through shitty heel shenanigans, because I think Raquel going to SmackDown offers something different on SmackDown. If you put Dakota there, yeah, she's incredible, but she's quite similar in build and in athleticism to women that they've already got there, which is, it's nothing against her. She just is. I don't want her to just blend in. you know, because I think she is a star, a potential star. So I think give her a bit more of a run in NXT, see what she can do with a title in NXT as well, like a singles title. If Raquel was to go to Raw, how different is she to Rhea, and how different is she to Charlotte? I think on SmackDown, as I say, she goes in there as the monster amongst that division. You know, we've got Nia on Raw as well. So yeah, that's what I think. I think Dakota's going to win. Raquel moves over to SmackDown. Gary,
I go with the shitty heel throughout the match. I think Dakota works the knee, as Mark said. I've not got much more to add on what Mark said, apart from I think Raquel then does the whole, you know, babyface comeback with the hurt knee, and Dakota goes to SmackDown. Yeah, I think Raquel just. I don't think I can't see them changing it, and the reason being is I think that they're going to change a title later on in the match on Takeover, so I don't think we're going to get a lot of changes. So I've just got to go with retaining by Raquel.
Oh, and Mike.
So yeah, similar to the guys. I'm going to go for Raquel to retain. The only way I could see Dakota winning is if they are going to bring Raquel up. But yeah, I agree that the loser comes up. I think Dakota's probably going to come up. Maybe because Raquel is maybe 6 months to a year off of being ready for the main roster. She's probably a bit too green at the moment. And if NXT is going to go back to a little bit more of a traditional developmental style, that might suit her a little bit better, take some of the pressure off of her for a bit, because I think she is destined for the very top of WWE, you know, without a doubt. So I think she'll retain for now. Dakota will go up and possibly renew a rivalry with Tegan Nox over on SmackDown, or go straight for Belair if she retains. Either way, and go for Raquel.
Cool. Okay, right. So I'm the only one going for Dakota there. Fuck you guys. Right. Let's go to. Going to save all the big ones for the very end. Let's go with LA Knight versus Cameron Grimes. I'm going to go to Gary for this one. Obviously, the stipulation here is that if LA Knight wins, Grimes will not be his butler anymore, but it will be instead Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. So, Gary, what are your thoughts on this one, mate?
I've been liking the segments.
And I am listening. I'm just going to the toilet.
I've been liking the segments. I like Grimes. I just think he's that kind of. Again, I think he'd do better on the main roster than he probably will to the NXT crowd. I think he's of that sort of.
Guys.
I think he's of that nature, and these characters of that nature that would probably do really well on the main roster.
Yeah.
I don't think you get the $1 Million Man. Yeah, I don't think you get Ted DiBiase to do the segments as a butler. While they would probably be entertaining, I just don't think at Ted DiBiase's his age and his standing, I don't think you do that. So, so I've got to think that Grimes wins this one. And again, I think this is all gearing up now. I think, as Mark said earlier on about this NXT, I think that a lot of them are going to make sure they're put in the shop window and not to be released if the rumours are true. So I think this will be an entertaining match. I think Grimes wins. But I also think that one, if not both of these guys, probably come up to the main roster during the draft, which is rumoured to be in a couple of months. I don't think they stay there as I just think, specifically Grimes, I just think his whole stick works better on a Raw or a SmackDown for me personally. And I love them. I just think they're more sort of main roster type sort of, it's a main roster type gimmick for me more than it is NXT. But yeah, I still expect it to be entertaining. I expect shenanigans. I fucking love that one. I expect shenanigans, but I expect Grimes from, again, to use the word, the shenanigans.
Yeah, same for me. Grimes wins. I can just see Vince loving him. He's just that kind of. He's silly. I think he's the kind of guy that you could give him anything, like Corbin, and it would work. He'd put everything into it. He's incredibly entertaining. This has been the best part of NXT for me for the last, what's it been, couple of months now. I've loved Ted DiBiase's involvement in it. He was one of my favourites as a kid. I've loved everything that I've ever seen of him doing. Yeah, I think on the main roster, I could see LA Knight maybe fitting into sort of like an Elias type of, not gimmick, but that sort of level. Like just a good handy mid carder that you can rely on to put other people over, and that's not that he's not worth more than that, because he's very talented, and I've enjoyed what he did in Impact, but I just think that's the level he's at for Vince. I think the real money in this and in this feud and going forward is Cameron Grimes. So yeah, Grimes to win this one for me. Who has not talked about this, Mark?
It's been a really fun shtick between both guys with the whole who's got more dough, throwing Ted DiBiase. You mentioned Corbin briefly. Now, if they were to take Grimes, obviously with the victory, and then put him onto SmackDown and then just do something with Corbin being skint and Grimes and DiBiase being absolutely wedged, and then just doing something with the two, that'd be over like Rover. And I would love that to happen. I really fucking would. Like have Grimes and DiBiase bail Corbin out, and then they become best fucking mates. It'd be brilliant. But yeah,
and that's how we get Happy Corbin. That's how we get the rumoured Happy Corbin.
Yeah, and to be quite, this has just been one whole fun storyline to watch. And again, it's all about them putting themselves in the shop window. So I expect a good match. I expect Grimes to win. And again, it's sort of the whole fantasy booking thing where you have these really fun things that could happen in the future. WWE and the writers won't pull the trigger on it, but I would love to see Grimes and Corbin and DiBiase all being best mates and taking Baron out to a strip club and then take him like trying to do him up and fix him up like a poor hobo. You know, you can just picture the scenes where they've got him in a motel room bath and giving him a bath scrub and fixing him up and buying him new suits. It'd be fucking brilliant.
Taking him to the hairdresser, getting his hair.
That sounds very WWE.
Brand new suit.
That'd be fucking perfect.
That's WWE all over. That could be something they do.
Absolutely, yeah. And like we said Corbin's one of those guys who can take anything and make it work. Grimes is one of those guys who can do the same. Yeah. Put them together.
It's money. It's
money.
It's absolute money. And everybody knows you can't always have the big, serious, heavy-hitting guys. You've got to have elements on the show. You've got to have supernatural gimmicks. You've got to have just the cheap, fun gimmicks, because the show's got to all-round suit everybody. And Grimes and Corbin, they do that. So they'd work brilliantly together, especially with the two gimmicks the way they're going at the minute. I'd love to see that happen.
Mike, safe to say you agree?
Yeah, so Cameron Grimes to win. I love Cameron Grimes. Loved him since both gimmicks. So the $1 billion bumpkin, as they call him now, and even before in his slightly different gimmick that he was in NXT when he was more of a heel. He was great, absolutely brilliant. Going to the moon, he loves to say. I'm not going to do the accent because I won't do it justice. But Cameron Grimes will win. I like both guys actually. LA Knight, I agree. I see him as very much Bobby Roode-esque, where he will go to the main roster. Maybe he could do a little bit better than Roode did because he's a bit younger. But he's not a world champion in WWE, but that's fine. Not everyone is. He'll have a good career, mid-card titles, mid-card heel. He's very good on the microphone. It's a good hand in the ring. Cameron Grimes is the star here. There's no doubt about it. I'd love to see him move to SmackDown after this and start the storyline with Corbin, as you say. Happy Corbin comes out of it. But yeah, I think this is going to be a very good match. Cameron Grimes, for how charismatic he is, how good he is on the mic, he's a very good wrestler as well. And he's young. I think he's got everything to be a big star in WWE for the next 10 years. So he's got to be in his late 20s now still.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's very young. He's got it all. So yeah, Cameron Grimes will win. And then we'll see what happens with NXT, the shake-up. But they could both end up going to the main roster pretty soon.
Another clean sweep. Lovely. Right, I'm going to take this next one, and I really wish I cared more about it, but it's another one that, Jesus Christ, I just feel like I've hit a wall with this rivalry, and especially to have to watch 3 matches of it in one night. Kyle O'Reilly versus Adam Cole, two of the absolute best in any company in the world, any wrestling promotion in the world. Kyle O'Reilly, one of the most underrated wrestlers on the planet. Time and time again delivers. Adam Cole, time and time again delivers. Adam Cole is an absolute star. Could this be his last? Well, it's more than likely going to be his last final hurrah in NXT, whether he stays in WWE or goes to AEW, whatever. So you know they're going to go all out. You know they're going to show up for this one. I think the first match is just a straight up wrestling match. The second match, am I right in thinking it's a last man standing?
Is it street fight? Is it or
street fight? There we go, street fight. Yeah. Sorry. And then the final match is a cage match. Honestly, I'm more interested in just the straight up wrestling match here because I just want to see them put on the best possible technical wrestling match. That's what Kyle O'Reilly's good at. I've seen these guys destroy each other more than enough times. It feels like this is just one of them rivalries. I love long-term storytelling, but fucking hell, it feels like forever ago the Undisputed Era split up already, and it's only really been in the last couple of months. But this feels like it's dragged on for about 6 months, and it's just these guys constantly going at each other. Are the 3 matches going to be in a row, or are they going to be spread out throughout the night? I assume spread out throughout the night. So it's going to feel like it's dragging on even more. I don't think they needed 3 matches in one night. Just give them the cage match or give them the street fight. Let them go out and kill each other one last time. Who wins it? Fucking hell, I don't know. Probably Kyle O'Reilly. But then what does that mean for Kyle O'Reilly? Does he then get that push to become champion? It depends on what happens in the main event with Joe and Karrion Kross. This is a really fucking... I haven't really put much thought into this one because, like I say, I wish I cared about it more than I do. Kyle O'Reilly for the win, and then Cole does whatever he does. I don't know what it means for Kyle O'Reilly going forward because, as incredibly talented as he is, he's not a world champion. I don't think he's been a world champion anywhere he's been to the best of my memory, and he's always been one of the best in the world. So what does he gain from going to the main roster? We know he can do comedy. I think he'll end up just being left in a mid-card comedy role, and I don't want to see that. Yeah, Kyle O'Reilly, I think. As I say, this is probably the least excited I've been for a takeover, even though on paper these are all incredible matches. Gary, what are your thoughts?
Well, firstly, O'Reilly wins. Cole does what I guess has become the sort of norm now. They get beat in the last NXT match. This is his last match. I can't see him staying in NXT after this. Well, whatever he goes to is obviously up in the air, and only Adam Cole knows what he's doing. But I don't see him continuing after this. So I think he does do the job to O'Reilly, which again, we've all read the reports about this was the reason why he signed a short-term, extension to his contract, which was to put over O'Reilly. I don't necessarily doubt that. I think that's kind of Cole's mentality. I think out of all 3 of them, I think I'm the same. The wrestling match itself, more than the other 2, but I've seen both of them kick shit at each other enough times. I think it will still be probably one of the matches of the night, if not the match of the night. All 3 of them. I think they happen back to back. I don't think they're going to spread them out throughout the show. But this isn't Cole's first time of doing this. He's done this type of match before, so I still expect a phenomenal. Yeah, so I still expect a phenomenal match. I expect both performers to put in absolute everything into it. But O'Reilly walks out the winner here, and as I said, Cole goes and he does whatever he does. But yeah, that's it for me on that one.
Oh, Mike.
Yeah. So first thoughts that I had when they announced this, what's it called? The 3 matches they're going to have is, I'm surprised they didn't call it 3 stages of hell. They haven't had a 3 stages of hell match in a long time. I thought they might go with that gimmick again to give it a bit more shine, but no. It's going to be a great match. I think they're going to do a reverse. So they said on NXT, O'Reilly picked the match that Cole won, the straight-up wrestling match, and Cole picked the one that O'Reilly won, the street fight. It was unsanctioned, but street fight type match. They'll go 1-1, I think, in the reverse order. So Cole will win O'Reilly will win the wrestling match, and Cole will win the street fight. And O'Reilly will win the cage match, winning 2-1, sending Cole off to hopefully the main roster, if not AEW. O'Reilly. I think O'Reilly will stay in NXT for a little while after this. Not necessarily move straight up, but I think he's young enough to be there. I think he's early 30s. So possibly push towards the NXT title and then come up in years time. I do agree. I don't think he's a world champion in main roster WWE, but I do think he can be a solid hand for them in the future. So I'm going to go for O'Reilly in a match that probably lasts about 45 minutes. I think it'll be a great match, or 3 great matches. But yeah, I mean, the thing with this rivalry, as you said, is it feels like it's gone along longer than it has, because I think with long-term booking, it works really well when you start off here, I can't stand that, and you go up to there. But the whole feud's been up here. It's been personal, bitter, 100 miles an hour from the first minute. So when that happens, it's tough to maintain it, I think. And I think that's what's happening here a little bit. They haven't built. It's just been level 10 the whole time.
Mark, your thoughts, mate?
Again, pretty much to echo what everyone else has said. I think it's probably going to be one of probably the match of the night. We'll get some ridiculous spots. No doubt someone coming off the top of the cage, if not both of them. And I expect Kyle O'Reilly to win. The only thing in the back of people's minds is, again, Cole potentially going to AEW, where his wife's over like Rover. His best buddies run the business, pretty much. I mean, what is there? I mean, there's obviously the money that Vince could throw it in. But, I mean, yeah, I mean, he's got a bit of a difficult choice to make, realistically speaking. Because on one hand, he's got the potential to be possibly the next Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels sees him as his protege. Shawn has Vince's ear. But again, he's got the personal side of things in AEW, where again, he's best mates with the Bucks and Cody and Omega and all the guys over there, and his wife's over like Rover. So
the money is just to quickly say, the thing with the money is Tony Khan can match that money.
Exactly, he can, and it quite easily. So he's got a lot of personal interests to go to AEW, probably for an easier schedule as well than what he would get on main roster, with them now starting up midweek live shows again. So he'd probably get an easier time for the same level of money. I expect him to leave. I'm going to throw it out there. I expect him to do the job and give Kyle O'Reilly to win, but I don't expect him to sign a new contract past his extension that he signed to get him through Takeover. I expect him to leave.
What about you guys? What do you, Gary? Mike, do you think he's actually going to stay or go?
Let's think. I understand the lure of going, as you know, Britt Baker is over like Rover, as Mark said. He's mates with the Bucks, which, you know, going on current fashion, each and every member of the Elite so far has been pretty protected over the last sort of year. I don't think that can be denied, apart from maybe Cody. But then again, you know, he'll just come out and tell everyone he loves them again, and then fake retire. Bullshit. I really find it hard to say good words. I love Cody as well. He's just stop with those problems. The problem that you're going to have with Cole is if he goes over to the main roster, if he goes over to AEW, where does he sit? If you have Punk and Bryan come in, where does he sit? You've got Omega, you've got, you know, let's be honest, at the moment it looks as if currently anyway they've dropped the Omega Page feud. which the whole point of that was to put Paige over as the white meat babyface. You've got Punk and Bryan coming in, apparently. You know, where does he sit in that grand scheme of things? I know he's mates with them, and I get that, but again, it's where this is the problem with it. No, I get that. But look, don't get me wrong, he's super talented. He would get over, and probably in 18 months he would have a great, you know, feud with someone. The problem that you're having with AEW at the moment, and I think this is going to become apparent, and I know that I sound again like I'm shitting on it. I'm really not. It's just because I like AEW. I like a lot of the things that they do. It's just one of those things that if you've got Punk and Bryan coming in, you've got the Elite, you've got Moxley, do you know what I mean? You've got Paige, you've got these guys that it becomes crowded.
Yeah, that's what when I said Andrade and Black and Bray as well. I mean, just there's more guys that should be up there that you've
got Miro as well.
But then you've got Darby and Page. I think they're signing too many people. You know, their roster's bigger than WWE's. I think I read at the moment, and it's mad. They're signing too many people. They don't need Adam Cole. It's just he's great. He's brilliant. He'd do well there, of course he would. But they've signed so many people recently.
I think one of the possible laws that could keep Cole with WWE is, again, everybody knows Vince likes the big Goliath guy, but there's always one smaller guy that he takes a shine to. It happened with Shawn. Over the last few years, it's been AJ. Brian, and I think Cole could be the next guy that Vince does take a significant shine to. And the possibility to say, look, could you leave WWE without saying that you had a Mania moment? Because if he goes to Raw or he goes to SmackDown or wherever, he's going to be one of the main guys. He can't leave without being on a Mania. I mean, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, there's a lot of law for him to leave, but there's a lot of reasons for him to stay as well. Yeah,
as good as AEW is, you know, his friends there. Let's be honest, I might get some hate for this, doesn't matter. Making it in WWE is the top of the business. If you can be a big star in the WWE, it means more. I think it was Cole's dream to do that. I think I read. Obviously, Shawn being his hero, getting that big Mania moment. That could he win a Royal Rumble? Could he win the championship? I think he'll give it a go. I do think he's going to stay. I think he's going to give it a try, take the money. With all the releases, I think he sees Vince's big offer and says, well, you released Strowman, who was on $1 million a year, and you think I'm worth that when he wasn't. And then you think, okay, maybe you see me as a star. So I think you give it a go. Possibly signed for a couple of years on that money, see what happens. And then if his contract comes up again in 2 years' time and nothing's happened, then he could move. He's still young enough to do that. So I think he probably will stay.
Let's be honest. Boys, let's be honest. They have released Bray Wyatt. They've released Strowman. There's no guarantee that even if Cole does go up and Vince does... Vince obviously has to promise some X, Y, and Z, right? I don't think he stays for money alone. He stays for whatever Vince is going to promise him. And I think he would do well. But I'm also of the opinion that it doesn't guarantee that in a year's time he's still going to be there, because there's no guarantees with those releases at the moment. They're coming out of left field. No one's seen the Bray Wyatt one coming. So I'm not 100% sure what he does. He's got a lot of choices to make, both good and bad. I think if he stays, he's a star. If he goes to AEW, I think short term, I think he's lost in the shuffle for a little bit. And that's purely just because of how many guys AEW currently have that have just came in, that, you know, with your Miro, your Blacks, your Andrades, you know, your Page Omegas. I just think that he gets lost in that shuffle for a while. And I'm not 100% sure that's a good thing at the moment. But, you know, he's a grown-ass man. He'll make his own decision.
Yep, absolutely. Right, let's move on to the last two matches then. How are we for time? Fuck me, we've been going for over 2 hours. Right, let's bash through these ones then. Annoyingly, I've saved the best ones for last. My match of the weekend already is Walter versus Dragunov. I cannot wait for this match. Let's give this one to Mike first.
Yeah, well, I agree. The first match, I mean, wow. That I don't watch matches again after that. Is one I can watch again. It was incredible. It's probably the hardest hitting match I've ever seen. Again, you mentioned Triple H's Shawn at SummerSlam. That was very hard hitting as well. But this one, just for a different reason, like you can tell, they're really just going for it. And I think this match would be the same. It could even top it. It's going to be on Takeover in front of a massive audience. And it deserves it because these guys are both amazing. I think there's been a lot of talk that Dragunov's going to be the guy to take the title, but I don't agree. I think NXT UK is sort of in a corner. Don't know if anyone's really on the level. And no one is anywhere near the level of Walter on that show at the moment. He's there. Brock Lesnar, Undertaker rolled into one. He's their attraction. I think he'll keep the title. He's not moving over to the USA. He said he doesn't want to, so he's not going to. He'll stay. He'll keep the title. Dragunov may move to NXT, I think, USA. But Walter will retain. So that's what I'm going to go for in probably the match of the entire weekend or across both shows.
Yeah. Match of the weekend for me. And he retains for the exact same reasons. He's countless times said that he doesn't want to move to the USA. Like you say, NXT UK is very good, but and Dragunov is an incredible talent. But who runs that show? Who is their Roman Reigns? Who is their Bobby Lashley or Drew McIntyre? Who's their Adam Cole or who's their Karrion Kross or whatever? They haven't got anyone even on half of the level of Walter since Pete Dunne sort of took a step back.
The only one would be Tyler Bate, and he's not. And that's the only one, and he's the Heritage Cup champion. So
yeah, another guy that Walter had an incredible match with.
Amazing.
Walter's another one of those guys who Walter's very much a Brock Lesnar, isn't he? Give him a smaller guy to work against.
Yeah,
he'll give you match of the year candidates.
Yeah,
every single time.
That match with Bate was outstanding. Tyler Bate. He's just incredible. Future star.
The match with Pete Dunne when he won the title as well.
He had a good match with Rampage Brown as well. I saw in NXT UK. That was very good. So Walter's fantastic.
I don't watch much of NXT UK, but I go out of my way to watch Walter's title defences. I'm agreeing. Walter to retain. Mark?
I agree. Walter to retain. You're going to have Dragunov that's going to be like some sort of nuclear cockroach. He's not going to go away. It'll take chop after chop after chop, and he'll obliterate him. But it'll take a lot. There'll be a lot of false finishes, and it'll take him loads to put him away. But he'll absolutely obliterate him over the period of time, and it'll probably be the match of the night. And Dragunov will get the odd little moment in, similar to the way Dunn did, and similar to the way Tyler Bate did, and you'll just have that little inkling that he might get something and he might nick it, but I don't see anyone dethroning Walter. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's even anybody that they could bring in from the British independent scene that could touch him on the outside. There's nobody in ICW, there's nobody in Future Shock, there's nobody in any of the independent Progress, nothing. There's nobody they could bring in.
Davey Boy Smith Jr., but apparently he's on SmackDown now. That was the big rumor that he was going to be the one.
He won't leave the US. There's no chance in the monkeys that he'll leave the US. He's too tight with the Hart family. There's nobody in the UK that I can see dethrone him. And he's probably going to hold the title for about 700, 800 days, unless they can develop somebody at the UK PC. But I just don't see it, unfortunately. But again, he carries that brand and he makes it what it is. Fucking incredible. It's nice to see him go over to the takeover shows and maybe get a bit of an appearance at the Rumble and maybe at Survivor Series. I don't know. But he's an absolute fucking specimen. He's a monster. But I don't see him getting beaten anytime soon.
Yeah. Derek?
I know that he said that he doesn't want to go to the States, and I'm aware of that. But let's be honest. Unless you're going to Japan or the States, maybe even Mexico, that you're running out of fucking places to go to ply your trade at the highest level. Staying in Europe is not fucking it. And you don't get into this business to stay in the European scene. You just fucking don't. And that's not a knock on the independents in European. You know, if it wasn't that, we wouldn't have quite a lot of the guys that we've had now. You know what I mean? So I had their last match down as one of my favourite matches of last year. I put in my top 5. I think they'll both again kick shit out of each other. It'll just be a hard-hitting match. They'll kill each other. But if the rumours are true in regards to NXT and that they're wanting to focus more on big guys, I think Walter stays in the States, and I'll happily I'll talk about this with the main event. But that's I think he loses. I think Dragunov takes the title. I don't know how, because I think Walter stays in the States. I think it's time that, as you know, back to what Mark was saying, who is there to take the title off of him anytime soon? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, they're getting themselves WWE style into that fucking corner where you've built this monster up that, unless you build someone up, and there is no one there at the moment, unless you've got a Pete Dunne that goes back. You know, again, his contract supposedly is over Takeover weekend as well. Unless you get him going back, really, I think Dragunov would be a good person to have the title. NXT again in the UK would go back to that developmental style. Walter stays in the States and becomes a fucking megastar. And I think that should be the way it goes. I don't understand why he wouldn't want to do that. But again, I don't know his personal life. So I don't know if his reasons are to do with the fact that he just doesn't want to do the States, which I understand. But if you want to be a massive star in that business and earn a shitload of money, there's no other way that you can ply your trade outside of WWE, well, outside of North America / Japan. So that's my reason that Walter loses.
My concern for Walter is, incredible as he might be, when was the last time a foreigner got massively, massively over and connected with an American audience? Obviously, at the minute, he is loved, well loved, with people like us, with UK fans, with British fans, but can you really see him going to Raw or going to SmackDown and fit it in? Like, he's not good on the mic. He doesn't particularly have any charisma. He looks like, I hope he doesn't hear this, he looks like a fucking potato. You know, he looks like a melted foam. So, you know, I don't know how much. Sure, Vince loves a big guy, but even Brock doesn't look great anymore, but he's still got more of a look about him than Walter does. He's just a bit plain. For a big guy, to me, he just looks like a generic big guy, like a Snitsky. I don't think he's got anything about him.
Vladimir Kozlov, at least. Come on, son.
Yeah, Kozlov. But Kozlov only really got to that level of being over once he became a comedy character and joined up with Santino.
I think one thing Walter does have is that he is phenomenal in the ring. He
just looks like a mean. And he just looks like a mean fucking bastard.
Yeah, and how hard he hits.
Chris has made a really good point. He goes over to the States, and you've got instant Cesaro syndrome. He won't connect with a US audience, and no matter how hard they've tried to push Cesaro, they've tried it 10, 15 times over the last, since he's been with the WWE, it's pushed. They tried putting him with Heyman. They tried push after push after push, heel turn, tag team. The most over Cesaro's been was when he was with Sheamus in the bar, and I don't see Walter being a tag team guy, to be quite honest. And again, is it worth maybe keeping him in the UK just to keep the push of that brand and the lore of that brand in the UK?
Possibly,
maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Right, let's move on to what I assume is going to be the TakeOver main event, and the one match that they have handled the most poorly, the match that they have tried their absolute best to really fuck up, the one match that on paper should be, again, match of the night. It's got that same lure of Dragunov versus Walter. It could be the whole weekend. The long-awaited in-ring return of Samoa Joe. Thank fuck he's finally back wrestling. As great a commentator as he was, I've been crying out for this for about 2 years now. Versus Karrion Kross, who was all set to be the next big thing until he started losing to a middle-aged recovering junkie. So yeah, let's go to. And that's not a slight on Jeff Hardy. He's my favourite wrestler of all time. What the fuck are they doing with this whole storyline? They had him lose, and then they've had him beat Keith Lee, which is another thing that we can come on to. What the fuck are they doing with Keith Lee? And then they've had him go into losing to Keith Lee, and now he's going back to destroying Jeff. When was the last time that a wrestler was this poorly handled on their debut?
Charlotte Flair. She lost to Nadie on her debut. So, yeah, there you go. There's your answer.
But she wasn't a monster. She wasn't built like a monster who ran through an entire roster for...
I'm just pointing it out. Do you know what I mean? Not everyone that... Don't get me wrong. I say that as if I'm a fan of it. It was fucking shit booking. Just as basic. Do you want to know what? I'll start this off very quickly because you've mentioned him in regards to Keith Lee. The problem that Keith Lee had, apart from of his medical problems, that when he came up to the main roster was there was no fucking fans.
Yeah.
Keith Lee needs fans. It's as simple as that. Without fans, Keith Lee was always going to struggle. He just was, because he needs that connection. But we can talk about that another day. I'm a massive fan of Keith Lee, and I'm glad he's on the mend. I watched just before this. I watched the promo that they've done. The promo video. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it. It's what separates WWE from AEW, and AEW are actually getting better at it. Is the production values and what they do with their videos. And obviously, AEW are just new, so they will get better, and they are getting better. But I watched this promo tonight, and I went, "Oh, I'm interested in this match again." So even though they've tried their best to fuck it up. And they have. Just pulling Kross over to the main roster was fucking pull him over tomorrow. What was the rush? What was the fucking rush? What was the point?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of WWE bookings gets me swearing a lot. At the end of the day, this will be a decent to good match. It'll be all right. It'll be what it is. Joe will win because Kross is on the main roster now. I don't think they keep Kross doing interchanging. Again, one of the reasons why I think Walter stays is purely because I think Walter Joe fucking match would bang. Just that simple. So I think Joe wins. I don't know what the fuck they're doing with Kross. I'm a massive fan of the guy. I think he's talented as shit. I don't get why they've decided to pull him up when they did. I don't get why they've taken Scarlett off him. There's a lot of things with Kross that I don't get. It was like they've just decided, right, you come here, and we're just going to fuck about with you for a couple of weeks. He shouldn't have lost. Joe should have been his first loss. Yeah, I agree. They've fucked about with it. They've tried everything they can to literally just piss all over this match. I don't know why, but if you watch the promo for it, it gets you back excited because a lot of the shite is actually not in there. You kind of forget about it for the 3 minutes of the video. But let's be honest, anytime Joe's on the mic, he makes me interested. I'm sure they'll do something tonight again to make me interested. And as long as Samoa Joe's in there and he's got a mic, I'm fucking happy. So I put the title back on Joe and have him on my TV screen every Tuesday night. I'm sound of it.
Yep, same. Weird timing, weird booking. I don't really know what they're doing with Scarlett. I imagine I imagine what they're trying to do is like show his vulnerability, and then when she's there, she inspires him to win. She brings out the beast in him, the monster in him. Some bullshit like that. I'm losing interest in Cross. To be honest, I lost interest in Cross a while ago before all this 50-50 bizarre booking. To me, he's just an entrance. I was really into him at first, but I've not been blown away by any of his matches. Even against Ciampa, Ciampa was all about Ciampa for me. Ciampa put in a shift like he always does. Cross to me is just a generic meathead with tattoos, a hot wife, and a cool entrance. And when you take away that cool entrance, which they've obviously done because Scarlett's not there, I think it exposes him as just being just normal. The weird thing about Cross is you look at him and he's a fucking tank, he's a beast, he's a monster, he's a machine. And then he's got a very technical moveset and they don't really mesh together. Like, you know, Brock's not a technical wrestler, he's a beast. Keith Lee, he's a beast, he's not a technical wrestler. It just does, his style didn't fit NXT. His look fits the main roster, but I think the more and more people see him, they're going to be a bit like, weird. This guy can destroy people, and then he's doing rest holds, and then he's doing submissions. It's just a bit. There's just something that doesn't quite mesh for me. Joe wins. Joe has to win. This is the whole backing themselves into a corner thing. He's on the main roster. Joe should have been his first defeat, and then he moved to the main roster on Raw on the coming Monday. It writes itself. What was the benefit of moving him to the main roster and having all this criticism and having him lose to Jeff and having him lose to Keith Lee, the guy who he beat for the title in NXT, remember? Bizarre. Mike.
Yeah, so I am a fan of Cross, I have to say. Less so without Scarlett. She adds so much to his presentation, to his overall character, to his mystique. Even when early days, when she was bringing out the hourglass on her own to his next opponents, I loved that. I thought it was different. Without Scarlett, I still like him, but he's nowhere near as intriguing to me as an overall. You know, I think he's a good wrestler. He is quite technical, which is a bit different. But how they're going to work that, I don't know. I don't know why they called him up when they did. Obviously, he destroyed Jeff Hardy, which he should have done in his first match. But obviously, I thought that was going to go somewhere, but it didn't. It didn't go anywhere. It's just led back to where it should have started. The Keith Lee one, I read that they wanted to have a 1-all, 50-50 between them to go back to the feud in the future. So I think we'll see that again down the line. As to this, Cross's final match in NXT, Joe's going to win. I can't wait to see Samoa Joe back. That's why I'm really looking forward to this match, because I can't wait to see Samoa Joe back. And I think these two are going to beat the living shit out of each other. And Samoa Joe is going to win with the Coquina Clutch. Well, I don't know if Cross will tap, like I said about Goldberg. Maybe not, but Joe will win. Cross will move on. And interestingly with Joe, obviously he was released from the main roster and went back to NXT, but now NXT is going back to developmental. Joe is an older guy, but he's also a talent scout for WWE. So I don't know how long he's going to carry on going in his, as NXT champion. Will he go back up again to the main roster in 6 months' time? Or, he is on the mic, and there's no, if he can wrestle again, because that was obviously the concern. There's no reason why not, because he's, for a moment, he was booked to be the guy who was feuding with Brock Lesnar. He was possibly going to go into a feud with Cena. But obviously injuries killed his career. But yeah, Joe's going to win, and NXT needs that hot star. Joe's going to be that guy. His reaction is going to be huge when he wins, and he's going to be babyface Samoa Joe, badass babyface Samoa Joe, who's going to carry the title into the future for NXT.
I think the tagline for this weekend should just be beating the shit out of each other, because there's a lot of that.
Yeah, there is.
A lot of matches where people are going to get fucking hurt. Mark?
To echo a point that Mike's just made, I think Joe needs to stay in NXT, because if the intention is to develop big guys for the main roster, Joe's the guy that you want in NXT to do that and to work with all the bigger rookies that are coming through. Cross, again, without Scarlett, it removes the mystique. Agree completely with Gary in the fact that they clusterfucked bringing him up to the main roster. Why they pulled the trigger so prematurely before the match with Joe, I don't have a clue whatsoever. I'll be honest, there's a lot of guys that come from NXT, and I'm probably going to get a lot of heat for this. Cross, he doesn't do it for me. Keith Lee doesn't do it for me. Dijakovic never did it for me. I don't think NXT know how to use big guys, which is why I think the plans for them to use big guys is quite worrying. NXT's best matches have been with the likes of Ciampa and Gargano and Balor, Sami Zayn, Nakamura. A few of them have got a bit of muscle to them. None of them are like the size of Reigns and so on. You know, their best matches and the best takeover matches have been with a number of the smaller guys. The big guys, again, sort of like you get Keith Lee. That's you see it all the time on Twitter. Why aren't they doing this with Lee? They should be doing this with Lee. They're fucking up, and I don't necessarily think they are. He doesn't do it for me. I'm not connected. I'm not connected to Dijakovic. I'm not connected to Cross. I don't really care about the characters because they've not really given me a reason to care about the characters, especially since taking Scarlett away from Cross. So I think Joe will get the win. Cross will move up. It'll continue with the running theme of losing your last match before heading up to the main roster. But I don't know what they do with Cross, because he just does. I don't feel that without the Scarlett character, he doesn't have any charisma or connects. So I think he's doomed from the get-go.
I think Scarlett will come back to Cross. I think they will build towards that again. They have to.
Yeah.
They'd be fucking insane if they didn't.
She's super marketable as well. He's super
definitely
marketable. You know, just look at her. Cool. Okay, so that was another clean sweep to round things off, and that's it.
Ooh.
That's it. Two full cards broken down, pretty much unanimously agreeing on pretty much everything. The most important thing, doesn't matter who's right or wrong. We've got a fucking full stadium. We've got a full arena for TakeOver. It's going to be a fucking amazing weekend. We've got loads of match of the year potential candidates in there. I can't wait. I'm sure you guys can't wait. I am thrilled that it's on a Saturday night as well. That's wonderful for us guys over here. I happen to have the Monday off anyway because I've just fucking naturally booked it off, assuming it was going to be on the Sunday night. So I've got it done like 6 months ago.
I'm far too fucking old to do this shit anymore on a Sunday night. I can probably do it 4 times a year, and I'm lucky. Like Mania, I'm goosed for a week.
Yeah, same. What was not last year? The 2-nighter for Mania was wonderful. I was like, fucking hell, let's do this every year. This is beautiful. Wasn't it like the year before was about 8 hours, or the year before that, that's 7.5 hours. You watch the pre-show as well. You've got a fucking day's worth of telly. It's a lot.
Well, so what is it? So if you think about this weekend, you've got SmackDown, especially for us, right? SmackDown's 1 till 3.
Yeah.
And then roughly at 3 o'clock is when Rampage starts, which I think a lot of people would stay up first. So that takes you to 4. Then you've got SummerSlam, which is probably going to be about 4.5 hours long. So that takes you to about 4 o'clock on the Sunday. Unfortunately, Rampage this weekend, you're out. I'm not. I'll probably, to be honest, I'll probably not even do SmackDown this weekend. I'll just focus on the pay-per-view because it's just otherwise I'd be goosed. Come fucking Monday, be like, oh god.
Yeah, because then you've got another 2 hours of TakeOver on the Sunday night as well.
Yeah,
so, yeah, 3 a.m.
I'm just a rewatcher the next morning. For me, I can't do the late nights, so I get up early enough anyway with my little one. So next morning for me, I can watch them all that way. SmackDown, I will even watch Rampage. Let's stay off social media until I'm done. I watch them pretty early anyway, from like 5:30 in the morning. So that's when I get up. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be crack, two fantastic cards. So,
yeah, man, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm even
And
more
let's
excited now
also
that we've
say
talked about
that
it.
it doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter what promotion you like, or if you like all. The fact is that we have so much fucking content. It's actually really good, regardless of my feelings on the fact that the Young Bucks are prinks.
There's something for everybody. That's the thing. You can complain that there's too much content, but just watch the content that you like. I don't make any attempt to watch even 50% of the wrestling out there because I wouldn't have a fucking life if I did. You know, we've got families, we've got jobs. I can't. There's wrestling every night, literally every single night of the week now, and it's just too much. I watch what I like. I don't watch what I don't like. I catch bits of AEW. I mainly watch WWE. If people don't like that, they don't have to like that. That's fine, whatever. So yeah, brilliant, cool. Well, guys, thank you very much for joining me. We've been about 3 hours, and it's flown by. It didn't feel like 3 hours. I'm more excited than I was before now because not very often. You know, anyone who watches my podcast, I always have wrestling guests on, and it's beautiful to just sit down with like-minded people and just shoot the shit and just talk about wrestling. So honestly, thank you guys very much for joining me and giving up such a long time, a long amount of time on your Tuesday night. Really appreciate it.
More than welcome, pal.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me too.
Thank you very much for watching. Sorry that it took so much of your nights. Hopefully we'll do this again, maybe for Survivor Series. I think that'll be the next big one. Maybe do it for the Rumble as well. Hopefully, we were meant to have a fifth with us today, but he wasn't able to do it, unfortunately. So next time, it's going to be a fucking 5-hour show. So prepare yourself for that. Yeah, cool. Everybody, again, thank you guys. Thank you everybody that's watched. Enjoy SummerSlam, enjoy Takeover, and all the best, and take care.